Part 39. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 387. Miss Runa, we're home. Kurosawa Hikaru said as he stopped in front of a house with Igarashi Runa on his back. So fast. Igarashi Runa, who was riding on his back, was a little surprised. Is it fast? Kurosawa turned his head slightly and glanced at her. Because one of the mission goals in the date mission was carry her home while she was half drunk, he made a special trip from the izakaya and followed the navigation route to carry Ms. Runa home. Of course, they took the subway. But in order to complete the task, he did not put her down even when taking the tram, and kept carrying her on his back. Because of this, they attracted a lot of strange looks along the way, especially when they were on the tram. As for the journey from the izakaya to the station, and from the station to the doorstep of your home, these two sections are nothing. After all, under the cover of night, no one will care about what you do, just pass by in a hurry. What's more, it's not unusual for a man to carry a drunk woman on his back. Tired? Igarashi Runa wrapped her arms around his collarbone, lying on his thick back, resting her chin on his shoulder, looking sideways at his profile, and whispered. Because she had drunk a lot of wine, her voice had a half-drunk tone, which was very soft and sultry, with a coquettish flavor. I won't be tired if I carry you for a few more hours. Kurosawa Hikaru disagreed with this statement. Just kidding, with his current physical fitness, even though he doesn't have superpowers, he is still ridiculously strong. Even carrying her all the way back from the izakaya was easy, not to mention that he took the subway to save time and effort. How about going out for a few more laps? I just want to get some air. Seeing how arrogant he was, Igarashi Runa asked again. You'll catch a cold if you blow too much wind when you're drunk. Kurosawa Hikaru did not agree to this request. Drunk people will have cognitive confusion under the influence of alcohol and do some unreasonable things. Although it is summer, even after 9 o'clock in the evening, the air is still very hot. But if you are drunk and want to blow in the wind, it is still not advisable. How about you carry me upstairs? Seeing that he didn't agree and didn't force it, Igarashi Runa said instead. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled dumbly and nodded. Obviously, Ms. Runa didn't even think about going for a breeze. What she said just now was probably to pave the way for the sentence. Key. Igarashi Runa took out a key from the pocket of her jeans and handed it to him. Kurosawa Hikaru raised his hand and took it. It was supposed to be a cold key, but instead it had a bit of warmth. Immediately, he was not polite, pushed open the fence gate in front of him, and walked into the inner room. After inserting the key and opening the door, Kurosawa Hikaru carried her into the entrance hall. As soon as I entered the door, the lights came on in the entrance hall. This is the function of the voice-activated light, which is very convenient. This wasn't the first time he came to Miss Runa's house, it was twice. The first time was when he carried her home while she was completely drunk. The second time was at her home to discuss starting a business. The mission progress has been updated. The goal carry her home while she is half drunk has been achieved. After closing the door, Kurosawa Hikaru heard the system beep. It can be considered completed, this task is really grueling. Upon realizing this, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but cursed. If after he awakens the system, the first person he goes on a date with is Igarashi Runa, it will definitely be difficult to complete the task. Although Ms. Runa was half drunk, not fully drunk, it was not that difficult to carry, but carrying a person on her back for more than 20 minutes, and having to walk several kilometers, would definitely be difficult for a weakling. Can't do it? Thinking about it this way, it is actually quite simple for him to complete this dating task at this stage. Whether it was meeting her alone at an izakaya, making her shy 3 times, or carrying her home when she was half drunk, it was all very easy. In contrast, the most difficult goal of this dating task is getting her to kiss your lips. You know, kissing on the mouth and kissing on the face are two completely different concepts. If it's just a kiss on the face, that's too simple. Even if the relationship is between ordinary friends of the opposite sex, such behavior is nothing. But kissing is different. This is a behavior that only occurs between lovers. It is no exaggeration to say that, regardless of whether a man or a woman is willing to kiss each other on the lips, such behavior represents a meaning of "I have feelings for you." After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't stop for too long. He just stepped on each other, took off his shoes, stepped into the entrance hall with his socks on, and headed to the second floor. "Does it feel heavy if you carry me on your back?" Following him upstairs, Runa Igarashi, who was riding on him, suddenly asked. "Very light, you have asked this question 5 times. Are you so unsure of your figure?" Facing this problem again, Kurosawa Hikaru felt helpless. "I'm not afraid that you will be tired." Igarashi Runa saw that he was a little impatient and said coquettishly. "Don't worry about me getting tired. It's very comfortable to carry a beautiful woman like you on my back." In this regard, Kurosawa simply said. This is really not a joke, the feeling of having her lying on his back, the heavy feeling, not to mention how comfortable it is. Why not a little beauty? Do you think I'm old? When Igarashi Runa heard this, she immediately became unhappy and wrapped her arms around his neck. "You misunderstood. When I said older, I didn't mean older." Kurosawa Hikaru found that she was a little slow and did not realize the connotation of her words, so he smiled. "Aren't you older?" Igarashi Runa was stunned when he heard this, a little confused. "What you think?" Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was drunk and not very clear-headed, so he didn't try to point it out, but just let her think slowly. "You do this again." The next moment, Igarashi Runa's expression suddenly changed, and she lightly punched him with her fist and spat. "Ha ha ha." Facing this painless attack, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't care at all, but laughed. While talking, they came to the second floor. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't even need to identify him, he walked straight to a room and arrived at her boudoir accurately. "Dear passengers, our destination has arrived." Arriving in front of a big bed, Kurosawa Hikaru turned his back to the bed and said. "Okay, thank you." Igarashi Runa was amused when she heard him imitating the taxi driver's tone, and then reluctantly let go of his neck and planned to get off his back. However, she opened her arms, but was unable to lie down on the bed smoothly. Because Kurosawa Hikaru held her thigh and didn't let go yet. "I've carried you so far, do you just want to say thank you?" Kurosawa Hikaru did not let her down, but turned his head and looked at her quietly. "Then what do you want to do?" Realizing that the journey was not over yet, Igarashi Runa's jade arms wrapped around his neck again. "Can't you give me a tip as a reward?" Facing her playful gaze, Kurosawa Hikaru did not dodge and looked at her. "Then how do you want me to reward you?" Igarashi Runa looked at his face, her eyes moved, and her voice was extremely soft. In response, Kurosawa turned his face slightly, then raised his chin. Seeing him tilt his face closer, Igarashi Runa didn't understand what he meant. It was obvious that he wanted her to kiss his face. Having said that, this level of request is nothing at all to a woman who is in the right mood. There was no need to be shy. In such an atmosphere and on such an occasion, Igarashi Runa reached out and kissed his face. "All right." Igarashi Runa kissed him, and while her heart was tingling, she was also satisfied. Although when she was in the office, because of the gratifying results of her debut song Croatian Rhapsody, she was so excited that she hugged Kurosawa and kissed him fiercely. But her mood at that time and her current mood were completely different. If the incestuous marriage at that time could be said to be an accident, then this time it was intentional. If there was a progress bar in the relationship between men and women, then her relationship with Kurosawa had obviously changed after this kiss. He is no longer the boyfriend of his best friend, let alone a partner, but a rather ambiguous and heart-pounding relationship between a man and a woman. Who said it? Feeling her kiss, Kurosawa Hikaru looked sideways and saw that she looked a little happy, and said again. Not okay yet. Igarashi Runa, who thought the matter would end like this, was a little confused. Kurosawa nodded slightly, then his face became wider and his mouth became angry. Didn't I give you a tip? Seeing this action, Igarashi Runa immediately felt shy and shook his body, refusing to obey. Maybe wine can make people bold, but she has a good capacity for drinking, and she drank in moderation tonight. She was only half drunk, but she still had a clear mind. As a woman, she was restrained, shy, self-respecting and many other factors, so she couldn't agree as easily as she did just now. You also know that's a tip. What I want now is travel expenses. Finding that she was shy, Kurosawa took advantage of the situation. His sudden act of playing taxi driver just now was not for nothing. In fact, when girls face invitations and further signals, the fundamental reason why they refuse is because they lack a reason. For example, at the end of a date, if a man proposes to go to a hotel, the girl will usually refuse. Not because of anything else, but because girls are more reserved and shy, and they wonder if it would be too casual to agree so easily. Why are you like this? Igarashi Runa looked at his lips, still shy, held his shoulders and shook him, as if riding a horse, coquettishly. In fact, she had dreamed about kissing Kurosawa Hikaru a long time ago, and she also wanted to do this. But thinking about it, when the incident of Chunmeng happened before her eyes, she felt timid and shy again. Dear passengers, please pay your toll as soon as possible, otherwise I will call the police. Faced with her reserve and shyness, Kurosawa Hikaru changed his tone again. Although his attitude was very polite, he said very rude words. Although he was determined to complete the mission, he would not be reconciled if today's date with Ms. Runa was just a kiss on the cheek and then go home. It's me who needs to call the police, you lecherous driver. Seeing that he was the first to complain and threaten to call the police, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. Why hadn't she realized before that this guy was so bad and had so many tricks up his sleeve? Having said that, she was quite enjoying it. Because if a man is too serious, he will be too boring. If you think about it carefully, this guy, as a playboy, can coax several girls into running around, so he can't be a serious person. Facing her charming white eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru said nothing. He just pouted at her again and asked for the fare. Why did I get on your thieves' bus? Realizing that he was very domineering and demanding fare, Igarashi Runa complained. Having said that, Igarashi Runa, who was lying on his back, had no choice but to reach out and kiss his lips. Their lips met, and with the kiss, the room fell into silence. Maybe the environment is like this, but for Igarashi Runa who is having a kiss, it is not peaceful at all. Boom boom boom. The sound of her heartbeat was so loud that it echoed in her mind. Such a fierce heartbeat is not just because of the pounding of the heart, but also because of an indescribable sense of betrayal. Because she was kissing her best friend's boyfriend. The same is true for Kurosawa Hikaru. With someone who has feelings, even holding hands will make your heart beat faster, let alone kissing. He did it and attacked the fourth woman. After taking this step, he could no longer look back. After more than 10 seconds, the lips separated naturally. As the kiss ended, the system's inappropriate voice sounded in Kurosawa's ears. The mission goal "let her kiss your lips" has been achieved. The first date with Igarashi Runa, the 4 mission goals are achieved, the mission is completed, and the reward is entry-level wine tasting and entry-level massage, permanent. Because the host already has the massage reward, the entry-level massage is upgraded to the proficiency level. Is the fare enough? Igarashi Runa retracted her lips, and couldn't help but stretch out her tongue to lick the delicate red lips. She felt like she still had unfinished thoughts. Looking at Kurosawa's longing face, there were all kinds of autumn water rippling in her eyes. Kurosawa Hikaru was originally distracted by the reward for completing the mission, but when he saw her seductive action of licking her lips, his heartstrings were instantly tugged. Not enough. The next moment, Kurosawa Hikaru no longer waited for her to kiss him, he directly blocked her lips and kissed her again. This time the kiss was no longer as simple as lips touching, it was very deep and even more intense. After the passionate kiss, Igarashi Runa lay on his thick back, feeling unprecedented satisfaction and comfort in her mind and body. That's enough this time. Turning his head to see her beautiful face so close, Kurosawa smiled, then slowly leaned back, letting her sit directly on the edge of the bed. However, just as he was about to end the journey, he found that his waist was tightly clamped by a pair of big white legs. Upon noticing this, Kurosawa Hikaru turned around in shock. Is it really enough? Igarashi Runa sat on the edge of the bed, leaning on the bed with her hands, holding his waist tightly, slightly raising her eyes to look at him, her eyes fiery and infatuated. After a long drought, there is rain, and she is not satisfied with this. Whether it was driven by alcohol or affection, she finally broke through the layer of friendship with Kurosawa Hikaru, and she wanted more. At this moment, right at her house, and right in the bedroom, even on the bed. Real. Although her posture and eyes were breathtaking, Kurosawa still nodded. As soon as these words came out, Igarashi Runa's expression of emotion froze, and the legs that were holding him loosened. For a moment, the originally good atmosphere suddenly shattered. Miss Runa, do you think I like you? Kurosawa turned around, looked at her beautiful face, and asked suddenly. Don't you like it? Igarashi Runa felt very disappointed when she heard this question. I like it? I'm sure I have feelings for you. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't expect her thoughts to be so negative, so he shook his head and said firmly. Real. Igarashi Runa was a little stunned and couldn't figure out what was going on with him for a while. Miss Runa, what do you think I like about you? Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, looking at her with very affectionate eyes, and his voice was very soft. I. Hearing this, Igarashi Runa paused and glanced down subconsciously. So far, all the men who have expressed their affection for her like her figure that is so low that no feet can be seen, and her beautiful appearance. I really like this, what else? Noticing her lowered head, Kurosawa followed his gaze. When he saw her hot and sexy figure, he nodded in disbelief and asked again. This. Igarashi Runa thought for a while and raised her right leg. She was still wearing sneakers on her feet because she had been carried on her back and she hadn't had time to take them off yet. According to Chizuru, this guy is a foot control. Anything else? Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't deny this and just continued to ask. What else? Igarashi Runa suddenly couldn't figure it out. In response to this question, Kurosawa just raised his finger and pointed at her. What do I look like? Igarashi Runa saw this action and became aware. I do like the way you look. Kurosawa nodded. Thank you, what do you want to say? Faced with such affirmation, Igarashi Runa was a little happy to be praised, and then she became anxious and said coquettishly. I'm not just after your beauty, but I like you, Miss Runa. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was anxious, took back his hands and put his hands in his pockets, and chuckled. Faced with this sudden confession, Igarashi Runa's beautiful eyes slightly opened, looking at him with some surprise. This guy played the role of a riddle man and said so much, but in the end it was just to confess. I'll send you home tonight, so I'll stop here first. Seeing her reaction, Kurosawa Hikaru was quite satisfied. Didn't you say you would give me a massage? You want to do two things at the same time so that I can sleep comfortably. Igarashi Runa looked at him with some resentment when she found out that he was going to leave. Although she was happy to hear him say this, but the atmosphere just now was there, wouldn't it be better to say this later? For the massage, wait until next time. Kurosawa Hikaru declined the invitation. Why? I'm afraid I can't control myself. I don't want our relationship to be like an impulsive one-night stand. Kurosawa Hikaru said when he realized she had to dig deep. It has to be said that Miss Runa, who is half drunk, is really full of temptation. She is simply the ceiling of pure desire. Just in that moment, she just played the role of driver and passenger, and she made him very excited. If this is a massage, he has no confidence in his self-control. Because when you like someone, you feel very much. Oh. After hearing this, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but look at him, and then nodded shyly. Calm down and think about it, she was indeed too impulsive just now. They just kissed, and the next moment they were going to roll in the sheets. The progress was too fast. Let's stop here tonight. After the next formal date, I will let you sleep comfortably. Seeing that she was finally obedient, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly stepped forward, knelt on one knee between her legs, and put his face in front of her. Okay. Igarashi Runa, who had already calmed down, faced his handsome face so close to her, and her heart beat fast when she heard these words. Good night. Kurosawa Hikaru kissed her again, saying softly. Good night. Igarashi Runa's heart melted when she was suddenly kissed. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 388. Kurosawa Hikaru woke up early in the morning. Maybe it was because he drank a lot last night, but he didn't feel hungover. After washing up and having breakfast, he sat at the desk in the bedroom, picked up a pen and paper and started drawing something. What he wants to draw is the piano score, because there is a piano concert performance next week. This performance is also a good opportunity to promote your personal album. Normally speaking, an album contains about 10 songs. Kurosawa Hikaru was also thinking while drawing the music score. The repertoire he has selected so far is Croatian Rhapsody, Flight of the Bumblebee, The Bell, Adelina by the Water, Wedding in a Dream and Autumn Whispers, a total of 6 songs. In other words, he needs at least 4 more songs to complete the album. It is not easy to reproduce piano music from a previous life. Because the system's proficient piano skills did not bring him the pop music library of his previous life, but only brought him the piano level that a talented person can achieve after a lifetime of hard work. Those classical piano music are all deeply recorded in his mind. In addition, he is also proficient in music theory and can arrange piano music according to it. But no matter how talented you are, you can't create something out of nothing, such as directly playing music that doesn't belong to this world. Of the 6 pieces he has set so far, Flight of the Bumblebee is the simplest. This simplicity does not refer to the difficulty of playing, but the difficulty of writing the score. Having said that, he did not create something out of nothing, there are traces to follow. Relying on his knowledge of music theory, he spent a whole night combining different melodies and beats to form a melody, discovering the sounds of nature that had long been buried in the deepest part of his memory. The process of drawing piano scores was not very smooth. Because a good piano piece cannot be achieved by just one beat or one melody, but must be complete. No matter how amazing the beginning of the music is, an incomplete work is still a half-finished product. No, this is wrong. Kurosawa held a pencil, frowned as he sketched out a note, and then removed it with an eraser in dissatisfaction, then rethought and sought inspiration. The so-called inspiration is creative and sudden thinking. This feeling is like suddenly thinking of something that has not been discovered before. In reasoning, inspiration can also be explained as a sudden enlightenment and the sudden discovery of a blind spot in thinking. Every piano piece must be carefully considered from beginning to end, as if it were a piece of writing, with no room for error. Although it is not going very smoothly, and it cannot be said to be a smooth process, overall we are still making progress. It's done. I don't know how much time passed until he drew the last note. Kurosawa Hikaru picked up the stack of paper in front of him and was very excited. Immediately, he took the piano score and started reading it. This is not the score of one piece, but 3 pieces, namely Flower Dance, Mark of the Rain and Annie's Wonderland. These were all piano melodies that he had heard and been attracted to deep in his memory. Even though these pieces are still musical scores, Kurosawa can't help but be immersed in them as he looks at each note. Because of the talent brought by the master-level piano, he can play the beautiful melody in his mind just by looking at the notes, even if there is no piano keyboard in front of him. I always feel like something is missing. After turning over and over to appreciate the music score, Kurosawa Hikaru gradually came back to his senses, counted the tracks again, and couldn't help but mutter to himself. Although there are no hard requirements for records and albums, it does not specify how many tracks are required. For example, each of the piano songs that he has planned for this album has the power to become a classic. Maybe he is not a musician, but systematic skills are not just as simple as playing methods, but also accompanied by talent, experience, and vision. Because of this, when he possesses a certain skill, he becomes a certain kind of person. For example, his painting skills and his perspective on the world have actually been different for a long time. This is true for photography, this is true for Kyoto, and even more so for piano. Maybe in daily life, it is not obvious, but once you come into contact with a certain field that you are good at, that kind of thinking will be particularly obvious. What exactly is missing? Kurosawa Hikaru thought hard, but couldn't figure out what the missing thing was. He had a feeling that if he played all 9 piano pieces and included them in his first album, the sales would definitely not be low and his fans would be satisfied. However, he had a vague feeling that this album was not perfect enough. After thinking to no avail, Kurosawa put down the pencil in his hand, took the laptop aside and turned it on, and started surfing the internet. He didn't go to YouTube to read the comments or go to Twitter, but started searching. What he has to do is to see what kind of piano music there is in this world, to find out the piano music that does not exist in this world. This world is a parallel world, very different from the previous life, but there are some differences. Some celebrities from previous lives still exist in this world, but they look different, such as Kenshi Youngju who sang Lemon. There are also some celebrities who do not exist in this world, such as the piano master, Maxim, and the piano prince, Richard Lederman. He began to listen to piano music, read the award lists of various music festivals, and read the historical era of piano music. While he was flipping through the pages, he saw the keyword canon. Taking this as a guide, he started to search and heard about canon. What's not right? While listening, Kurosawa always felt that something was not good enough and frowned. This canon is very nice, the melody has that flavor, but it is not the canon in his impression. Is it you? The next moment, Kurosawa Hikaru's brows widened and he suddenly realized. Canon is not actually a piece of music, but a type of polyphonic music. It is one of the techniques of music composition and a genre of music. Just like the genre of rhapsody, it is enough to define a classification. For people who know music, once they realize this, they will fall into a misunderstanding. Canon is canon, it is like a spell, like a symbol, standing at the end of time, cutting off the way forward, turning the world into a limited realm. No one in this world dares to challenge its authority, but in his previous life, he once heard a piece of piano music that could be called perfect. Realizing what he was looking for, Kurosawa put down the mouse, closed the laptop, took the pen and paper again, and began to draw the score. Because it's based on the original, it's as simple as one flight of the bumblebee. It's done. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru put down his pencil, took the sheet music and kept flipping through it. As the sounds of that day played in his mind, he felt extremely excited. Canon Variations, a piano piece adapted based on Canon's techniques, was also the most beautiful melody he had ever heard in his previous life. He has an extremely strong feeling that once this piece comes out, it will definitely cause a sensation all over the world. After being excited alone for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it, took out a pen and paper and wrote down a lot of words, took out his mobile phone, opened Igarashi Runa's line, and made a video call directly. "Miss Runa, the concert program has been arranged." After the connection was successful, Kurosawa Hikaru said enthusiastically. After deciding on the program, he was already looking forward to the piano concert next Wednesday and at the end of this month. Once people decide to do something, especially when they know that their performance will shock everyone, they will be particularly excited. So fast. Igarashi Runa was a little surprised when she heard this. "I have been preparing before, today is just the finishing work, so it will be quick of course." Kurosawa nodded slightly. "Then send me the track list. I wrote it on paper and will take a photo and send it to you later." "What kind of songs are they?" In response to this question, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't say anything. He just switched the camera and looked at the paper on the table. On the paper, from top to bottom, there are a total of 10 track names written. Flight of the Bumblebee, Croatian Rhapsody, Bell, The Mark of Rain, Annie's Wonderland, Adelina by the Water, Autumn Whispers, Flower Dance, Dream Wedding, Canon Variations. Just seeing these tracks made Kurosawa Hikaru feel extremely excited. Each of these tracks, taken individually, is a classic. Putting them all together, he could imagine how exciting his performance would be. The appetizer was Flight of the Bumblebee, which directly ignited the audience, and ended with Canon. "How about it?" As she inspected him, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but ask. What he can imagine is that if he went to a piano concert in his previous life, if he could hear these pieces of music all at once, even if he didn't like piano, he would definitely be deeply fascinated by it. "The character is very beautiful." Igarashi Runa read it from top to bottom, and after questioning this, he choked and said, "I mean these tunes." Kurosawa Hikaru switched the camera to show her how speechless he was. "Even if you ask me how it is, you have a lot of songs here that I haven't even heard of." Igarashi Runa saw his unhappy expression, but had no choice but to explain. "That's true." Kurosawa Hikaru was stunned when he heard this, and then he suddenly realized what he was saying and was relieved. If someone in a previous life saw this kind of track list, they would definitely be deeply attracted because it is all world-famous songs. How long is each of these tracks? How long does it add up to? Seeing that he was very reasonable, Igarashi Runa felt relieved and asked, "I'll do the math later. I've been busy all morning, but I've sorted out the track list. Don't you have anything to say?" Hearing this question, Kurosawa Hikaru realized that it was not settled yet and nodded, but looking at her delicate and beautiful face and her delicate and bright red lips, he smiled evilly. Well. Igarashi Runa didn't know how to respond to these teasing words. "What's wrong?" Seeing her embarrassed expression, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little puzzled. Although it was through the influence of alcohol last night, they both broke through the layer of paper and kissed directly, twice. Logically speaking, a small interaction like this should make people excited. Why this expression? "You said you've been busy all morning, so you haven't eaten again, right? It's already 2 o'clock. In this regard, Igarashi Runa changed the subject. "It's okay, I've had breakfast and I'm not hungry at all." Kurosawa Hikaru waved his hand disapprovingly. His physical fitness is there. Although he still has to eat, drink and sleep like a normal person, as long as he is not doing physical work, he will have no problem even if he eats one meal a day. "No, I seem to be hungry." As soon as he finished speaking, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly changed his mind and changed his words. He looked straight at her and raised the corners of his mouth. His tone was intriguing, as if there was a subtext saying, "I want to eat you. Brother Guang, even if you have to be busy with work, you still have to eat on time." At this moment, a pleasant voice suddenly rang from the speaker of the mobile phone. Hearing these words, Kurosawa Hikaru's expression became fixed, and his eyes froze in an instant. This voice is too familiar, not to mention Brother Guang's shouting method is also unique. The next moment, Igarashi Runa moved the phone, and as the camera panned, a face was reflected on the screen of the phone. With long wavy blonde hair, clear blue eyes, and an impeccably beautiful face that is 360 degrees, it is clearly Ichino's Yuki. Seeing that beautiful and cute face, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but feel a blur in his eyes. What's the situation? Why is Ms. Runa and Xiao Yuki together? I took Miss Ichino's to watch the dance training class. At the same time, Igarashi Runa saw his frozen expression and briefly explained the situation. Fortunately, the car was stopped last night. The exchange between them was more dramatic and not very straightforward. If he hadn't stopped the car, I'm afraid that when Kurosawa just communicated with her, he wouldn't have the implicit attitude, but would become more straightforward. As long as you say kiss, it's over. I see, Xiao Yuki, you are going to a dance class with Miss Runa today, why didn't you tell me? Kurosawa Hikaru also had the same feelings and thoughts. Recalling what he had just said, he did not say anything fatal. Feeling a little relieved, he pretended to be calm and asked. Although Xiao Yuki knew that he planned to pursue Miss Runa, having some ambiguous and intimate interactions with other girls in front of his girlfriend still made people feel guilty. I sent you a message, but you never read it? Yuki Ichino's pouted, a little depressed. Is that so? Sorry, I just finished drawing the music score and don't have time to look at my phone. Kurosawa Hikaru paused and explained. It's okay, I know you are busy, but no matter how busy you are, you must remember to eat on time. Ichino's Yuki shook his head, not paying much attention to this, and then said. Okay, I'll go eat later. What's the situation over there now? In response to his little girlfriend's advice, Kurosawa Hikaru smiled and nodded. We just watched the teacher's performance. Ms. Ichino's will have an interview later. If she passes, she will be accepted as a student, Igarashi Runa responded. Brother Guang, let me tell you, that teacher dances really well, and he's also very pretty. Yuki Ichino's expression was very excited, as if she had just watched a particularly exciting performance, and the lingering feeling was that she couldn't wait to share it with others. How beautiful is it? Seeing her expression, Kurosawa didn't seem to care about what happened just now, and followed the topic. Well, it's hard to describe. After I learn it, I'll dance it for you. Ichino's Yuki was stunned by the question. After hesitating for a while, he still couldn't describe it, so he said. Okay, then I'll wait. Kurosawa Hikaru found that she was full of energy and was very happy. Ichino's Yuki nodded with a sweet smile. Kurosawa, let's not talk for now. That teacher is a very good dancer and has very high requirements for accepting students. Miss Ichino's will have an interview later, and we must take it seriously. At this moment, Igarashi Runa interrupted the chat between the two people. Then the matter of Xiao Yuki will be troublesome to you. Realizing that the situation on their side was serious, Kurosawa understood. Apparently, Ms. Runa took Xiao Yuki to find a very powerful teacher. It's normal to think about it. If you want Xiao Yuki, a beginner, to learn to dance in a short time, you must rely on the teachings of a famous teacher. She is not only your little Yuki, but also my artist. This is what I should do, Igarashi Runa teased. Come on, I hope to hear your good news later. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled, and then looked at Xiao Yuki. Okay. Yuki Ichino's nodded obediently. Bye bye. Bye bye. With the goodbyes, the video call ends. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at Line's letter and discovered that Koyuki actually sent him a message at 11:30, saying that he wanted to have dinner with Miss Igarashi to talk about work. There should be no problem. Although he realized that he had not been able to reply to the message in time, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about the situation just now and felt that the problem was not that big. First, when he woke up in the morning, he chatted with Xiao Yuki for a while and explained that he was busy with work. Then he had a heart-to-heart talk with Xiao Yuki before, and it was only after he got her attitude that he made up his mind to formally pursue Miss Runa. If there were no such prerequisites, like just now, Xiao Yuki suddenly caught him communicating with Miss Runa a little ambiguous, who knows what would happen. Is it 2 o'clock? After thinking alone for a while, Kurosawa Mitsuru looked at the time and stood up to eat. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he still had to do a part-time job to meet Mirai. These 10 piano pieces are absolutely perfect as an album, but as a concert program, it doesn't seem to be enough. Standing in front of the kitchen stove and frying eggs, Kurosawa Mitsuru was also thinking. He didn't even need to calculate, the total length of the 10 piano pieces would definitely not support a concert. It should be said that his foundation was still too shallow, and he had too little preparation time. First calculate the playing time of these pieces, and then discuss the next things with Miss Runa. After thinking about it, Kurosawa Mitsuru didn't have the habit of getting stuck in a rut, and he quickly let it go. Because the concert is next Wednesday, there are still many things to do this week. Especially for the date with Mirai, he must prepare in advance. At 6 o'clock in the evening, as the maid left on time, Shifunjayuan Mirai held a pen and was very distressed. What's wrong? Seeing her distressed expression, it was as if she was saying come and ask me. Kurosawa Hikaru was amused and cooperated very well. Even if they don't have to worry about surveillance, they still maintain their previous habits, that is, the whisper session during the break. I'm thinking, what kind of swimsuit should I wear when we go to the beach together? Shifunjayuan Mirai rolled up her hair and looked at him with beautiful eyes. It's okay if it's not a bikini. Facing her expectant eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and said. In fact, when girls ask such questions, they usually have difficulty in making choices. This is a common problem for most girls. For example, when they are on a date, they don't know what kind of clothes to wear to look good, and they don't know how to satisfy the person they are dating. That's right, once a girl raises such a distress, she is actually asking for your opinion. When faced with such a question, you should never give a perfunctory and meaningless answer like you look good in anything, nor should you specify one answer for her. Instead, you should express your own opinion and give her enough room to choose. Do you hate bikinis? Shifunjayuan Mirai was a little surprised to hear this answer. I don't hate it, but if you wear a bikini, then we won't be able to play at that time. Why? You are so beautiful. If you still wear a bikini, all the men on the beach will stare at you. How can we play? Maybe there will be a bloody storm. Bloody storm. Think about it, if all the men stare at you, won't their female companions be jealous? At that time, there is a possibility of a fight. How can it be as exaggerated as you say? Hearing him praising herself in various ways, Shifunjayuan Mirai could understand the routine, but still curved her beautiful eyes and rolled her eyes at him in her heart. It's so exaggerated. Kurosawa Hikaru looked her up and down and said with certainty. She is so beautiful, she is simply a fairy. Just by her looks, Shifunjayuan Mirai is enough to outshine all the other girls. In addition, her noble and cold temperament has caused a little sensation in the martial arts hall before. If she wears a bikini, the lethality is really unimaginable. But don't boys like their girlfriends to wear bikinis? Shifunjayuan Mirai will not argue with him, just ask. Boys like other people's girlfriends to wear bikinis. To this statement, Kurosawa Mitsuru denied it without hesitation. Since you don't like it, I will never wear it. Shifunjayuan Mirai realized that his possessiveness was quite strong, thought about it, and nodded. Never wearing it is too much. What I mean is that I don't like my girlfriend to wear a bikini for others to see. When we are alone, you can still wear it. Hearing this, Kurosawa Mitsuru suddenly felt something was wrong, and realized the fundamental meaning of her question just now, so he smiled. Shifunjayuan Mirai in the summer swimsuit bikini style, he just didn't want to show it to others, he still wanted to see it very much. So do you like bikinis? Seeing that he finally reacted and his attitude changed 180 degrees, Shifunjayuan Mirai's smile was a bit cunning. I like it. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 389. The distance between whispers makes it seem like there are endless topics to talk about, which makes people open up their hearts even more. After discussing the issue of what to wear on the date, Shifunjayuan Mirai did not decide exactly what he would wear, but just asked him to wait and see. Agwang, are you really planning to take me to the beach this Sunday? Overcoming this topic, Shifunjayuan Mirai suddenly asked. Really? Kurosawa nodded. Putting aside the issue of the mission, he came to a conclusion based on so many dating experiences. As long as the task can be triggered, it will definitely make the woman happy. Are you in a hurry? Aren't you going to release your new song and first MV in 2 days? And you have a concert next week. Shifunjayuan understood his thoughts in the future, his beautiful eyes curved, and his mouth opened slightly. It doesn't matter. Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised to find that she noticed these things. He just leaned his head a little and said softly. Maybe he is very busy, but after all, he has several girlfriends, so there is nothing he can do about it. Actually, I'm not in a hurry. Why don't we wait until next week? Wait until you finish your work. Shifunjayuan smiled slightly in the future and suggested. Did something unexpected happen? Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru raised his eyebrows and became confused. No, don't think too much about it, it's just that I think you will be very busy these days and have important things to do. Seeing his raised eyebrows, Shifunjayuan Mirai was amused, shook his head slightly, and spoke softly, soft words that were refreshing. It's business to date you. Kurosawa Hikaru realized that her thoughtfulness was a little heartwarming, but he still said it. Agwang, I don't want you to be so tired. Kurosawa Hikaru heard this and wanted to deny it, but he didn't know how to say it. Is he tired? Physically speaking, he is completely untiring, just like an Iron Man. But from a practical point of view, he is indeed very busy these days and basically has no leisure time. Basically, he had just finished spending time with one person and then had to spend time with another one. There were a lot of things that were tiring and sad. To be honest, he was a little tired, but he enjoyed it. After all, these days, he finally coaxed Chizuru, and he also had a date with Xiaoyuki. He even apologized to Miki Bayu, and he felt relieved. Actually, I have selfish motives for wanting to postpone it for a week. Shifunjayuan Mirai's ruby-like beautiful eyes looked at his face, and after thinking, he said. What? Kurosawa Hikaru realized that she had another reason and wanted to hear what she had to say. I'm looking forward to the first official date, so I hope you can finish all the urgent work, and then you can be like me, completely letting go of all restraints and having fun, without thinking about another important date in a few days. Performance. Shifunjayuan's future relationship with him is very frank, and some things can be said bluntly. Really? Kurosawa thought about it and thought it made sense. Although he has decided on the program list, in fact, there is still a lot of work to prepare for the concert. He was really busy this week, so busy that he had no time to meet with Xiaoyuki. For example, on Monday, he went to shoot the MV very early in the morning and came home very late in the evening. He only chatted with Xiaoyuki for a while. As for Tuesday, it's editing work, shoe shopping in the afternoon, and part-time work. Yesterday Wednesday, he was going to have a business meeting and even went to an izakaya with Ms. Runa. When I got home last night, it was already 10 p.m. These days, although he has been in contact with Xiaoyuki through mobile phones, that's all. Let's wait until next week. We still have a lot of time, so there's no need to rush. Sifenuen could sense that he was very busy in the future, and comforted him with a slight smile. Good. Kurosawa glanced at her, thinking that she wouldn't lie to him intentionally, and nodded. If the date is postponed to next week, he will have more time and can be more prepared for the date. And this isn't the first date. Postponing this matter for now, Kurosawa Hikaru reminded him after thinking about it. Isn't it? Sifenjiyuan is a little confused in the future. It was agreed in advance that if two people meet at a certain time, it is considered a date. From the first time I went to the dojo, it was considered our date. Kurosawa noticed that she was unconscious and looked at her sideways. Indeed. Realizing this concept, Mirai Shifunjin recalled the first time they met at the dojo and gained some understanding. I have to say that she was quite looking forward to that date and was quite excited. Whether it was the anxiety when waiting for Kurosawa Hikaru to arrive for the appointment, or the joy of waiting for Kurosawa Hikaru to shake hands with him, or the thrill of love at first sight when seeing his graceful shooting skills. Then what's our date? Although he agrees with it, Sifenjiyuan is a little dissatisfied with the future. She originally thought that this date would definitely be an experience she would never forget. Ever since she mentioned it that day, she had been looking forward to it. But now, this title was suddenly taken off, leaving her with a sense of emptiness. It's my first time eloping. Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while, looked at her beautiful face, and said, Elope. Hearing this name, Sifenjiyuan's beautiful eyes lit up in the future, bursting with infinite energy, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Elopement, this is too attractive to her. Ding dong. The next morning, there was an echo in the house. As the doorbell rang, Kurosawa Hikari also walked from the living room to the entrance and opened the door. Brother Hikari, good morning. Outside the door, Ichino's Yuki raised her hand, smiling brightly, full of energy. Today she was wearing a black short-sleeved embroidered t-shirt, a pleated skirt, and a pair of dad shoes. She looked very energetic and youthful. Good morning, you don't send a message, tell me in advance, I'll pick you up downstairs. Seeing her healing smile, Kurosawa Hikari looked at her helplessly. Because if I send you a message in advance, you have to make a special trip. Ichino's Yuki smiled and explained. Come in, breakfast is just ready. Kurosawa Hikari realized her little thoughts, nodded slightly, and stepped aside to make way. Excuse me. Ichino's Yuki called softly, then stepped forward and walked into the house. Kurosawa Hikaru just shook his head and smiled at her playfulness, and then closed the door. As the door closed, Kurosawa Hikaru saw Xiaoyuki standing there motionless, her eyes fixed on the two pairs of slippers in front of the entrance. What's wrong? Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised to find that she noticed this as soon as she entered the door, and asked knowingly. Brother Guang, do you have other guests at home? Yuki Ichino's couldn't help asking. When you come to your partner's house and see shoes of the opposite sex, you really have to pay attention. No. Then whose two pairs of shoes are they? Yuki Ichino's hesitated for a few times and turned around to ask. So you asked that because you saw this, This pair of slippers is your exclusive pair. It's not good to let you wear guest slippers all the time, so I bought a pair specifically. Do you like it? Kurosawa Hikaru heard this question, pretended to react, and pointed to the pair of furry slippers. I like it. Is this specially bought for me? Realizing that she had her own pair of slippers in the Kurosawa family, Ichino's Yuki was quite happy, with a sunny smile on her face. While speaking, she couldn't help but take a look at the other pair of slippers. Since the furry slippers were her exclusive slippers, that means the other pair was someone else's exclusive slippers. In other words, besides her, there were other women who had come to Guang's house. Although she knew that this was a very normal thing, she couldn't help but feel a little jealous, as if someone else had interfered with her own holy place. Should I hide it? Kurosawa Guang saw that her smile was a bit far-fetched, and his heart sank. Obviously, even if Xiao Yuki knew and accepted that he had several girlfriends. But it was completely impossible for her to not mind. After all, this is modern times, where monogamy prevails, not ancient times, when it was normal for people of status to have many wives and concubines. Try it and see if it fits. Realizing that he was still thinking too simply, Kurosawa Hikaru changed the subject. Okay. Yuki Ichino's didn't ask about the other pair of slippers, nodded obediently, and then sat at the entrance and started to change shoes. Wait until the companies transfer the money, and buy a few houses. Seeing her sweet smile, Kurosawa Hikaru decided in his heart. Although Yuki didn't complain, didn't throw a tantrum, and didn't say a word, but even if she was a good actress, it would be impossible to pretend that nothing had happened when she really encountered unhappy things. The best way to avoid this situation today is to buy a few more houses, one for each person. In this way, you can avoid the situation where one family has two exclusive slippers for the hostess at the same time. At the same time, Yuki Ichino's took off her dad's shoes and quickly changed into her own slippers. It fits just right, so cute. Yuki Ichino's stood up, tiptoed left and right, looked down at the way she was wearing, and was very happy. Although she was a little jealous, Brother Guang suddenly bought her slippers, which still made her feel pleasantly surprised. It's really cute. Kurosawa Guang looked at her cheerful look and smiled, and couldn't help glancing at her feet. Under the pleated skirt, her slender and straight legs with soft skin looked extremely pleasing to the eye. In the furry big slippers, her small and delicate jade feet, set off by the cherry-colored nails, were particularly pink and tender, and even looked like jade. If feet are also divided into grades, then this is food grade. Brother Guang, I'm hungry. Yuki Ichino's felt his eager gaze and the implication of his words. Her pretty face flushed, she smiled, and took a few steps forward to hug his arm. Let's go, let's have breakfast. Kurosawa Guang nodded when she hugged his arm and felt her warmth. Since it was not her first time as a guest, Yuki Ichino's dragged him along, and walked straight to the dining table. Wow, so much. As she approached, Yuki Ichino's was surprised to see the breakfast on the table. Sandwiches, omelets, and fried chicken nuggets. Just made it? Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. After he finished his part-time job last night, he calculated the time. He didn't have any special plans today, so he could accompany Xiao Yuki. On the way home, he went to a convenience store to buy ingredients. How can I finish all the food I made? Ichino's Yuki was a little worried. If you can't finish it, don't you still have me? I have a big appetite. Kurosawa Mitsuru didn't think so. Yeah. Ichino's Yuki realized that he was still there, and she felt relieved. Sit down for a while, I'll get you a Pepsi. Do you want it cold or not? Take her to the dining table and sit down, Kurosawa Mitsuru asked. His question was not out of consideration as a scumbag to test the girl's physical condition, but simply to see what kind she wanted to drink. Normally, carbonated drinks are best drunk iced, both in taste and flavor. Especially in summer, no matter what it is, he likes iced. As for drinking hot water to cure all diseases, most people may not pursue it even if they know that some things are good. Iced, no need, I just drink water. When Yuki Ichinose heard this, she responded subconsciously, but then she regretted it and shook her head quickly. What's wrong? Don't you like Pepsi the most? Kurosawa Hikaru, who was rubbing his hands and about to prepare a drink for her, was a little surprised to see her response. Because he planned to accompany Yuki today, he bought drinks and snacks when he went to the convenience store last night. Before that, his family didn't have any drinks. You like it, but you can't drink it often. Yuki Ichinose nodded. Are you afraid of getting fat? Or are you afraid of bad teeth? Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was restraining herself, so he asked curiously. Both. Yuki Ichinose, who had been pressed to sit down, nodded. It's just a little drink, it's okay, right? And you have to practice dancing recently, plus you usually do yoga and fitness, these calories are nothing. Kurosawa Hikaru realized her worries and comforted her. To be honest, he didn't quite understand girls' restraint in eating. You know, people living in this world don't have so many happy things. If eating and drinking are still restricted, then life is too boring. Then drink a little. Faced with his persuasion, Ichinose Yuki was a little moved and asked tentatively. Okay. Finally letting her let go, Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and went to the kitchen immediately. Eat quickly, the food will get cold soon. Soon, he took a 330 ml can of iced cola, sat next to her, and helped her open the bottle cap. Yeah, I'm going to start. Ichinose Yuki nodded. Eat fried chicken first, it won't taste so good when it's cold. Kurosawa Hikaru was recommending enthusiastically, and was looking forward to her reaction. Let's not talk about other things for now. Fried food with carbonated drinks is a superb combination in his opinion. Perhaps there is a saying in Smecta that fried chicken and beer are more suitable, but little Yuki is not old enough to drink after all. Wow, so spicy, but so delicious. Ichinose Yuki picked up a piece of fried chicken and put it in her mouth, very surprised. Drink some Coke. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled and taught her to eat. The way he cooked this fried chicken was based on the method of McDonald's spicy chicken wings. In fact, he didn't add so much chili when marinating, but the Japanese's ability to eat spicy food is even lower than that of Cantonese people. Food is not only about the steps of cooking, but also the way to eat it. Ichinose Yuki took a sip of Coke, pursed her lips, and was a little excited. After eating spicy food, taking a sip of Coke, that feeling is really great. Ha ha ha. Seeing her happy look, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her sideways and was also very happy. Brother Hikaru, you eat too. Facing his doting and happy eyes, Ichinose Yuki asked shyly and embarrassedly. It was just that she was eating alone, which made people feel embarrassed. By the way, you obviously like to drink Coke, why don't you drink it suddenly? Kurosawa Hikaru also started eating, picked up a piece of fried chicken with chopsticks and brought it to his mouth, took a bite, and asked. Because I want to keep in shape, Ichinose Yuki responded. Is the dance teacher not satisfied with your figure? Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and asked. Although he only had a ballet experience card and no complete knowledge theory, even as an outsider, he knew how strict the dance teacher's requirements for the figure were. The teacher is very satisfied with my physical condition. Brother Hikaru, do you think my figure is not good enough? Yuki Ichinose shook her head and couldn't help but glance at him. Although she didn't earn much when she worked part-time as a model at YG, she was still very strict in terms of body shape and diet. No, I think your body is super good, I love it, I just wondered if the dance teacher's requirements would be too strict. If that's not the case, why did you suddenly stop drinking Coke? Kurosawa Hikaru noticed her gaze, quickly shook his head to deny and clarify, and then asked. Yuki's body, except for her height, is top-notch in other aspects, and there is no dead angle from head to toe. Yuki Ichino's couldn't help but look at him more. Why she wants to keep in shape is not because Brother Guang has so many girlfriends, and each one is prettier than the last. Originally, she was very short and dwarfed compared to Ninomiya Chizuru and Shifen Jinmarai. If she also became fat and ugly, she would be directly compared to her. Alright. Sometimes, a look is the answer. Kurosawa Hikaru realized something and was suddenly speechless. Without contrast, there is no harm. Although he didn't have that kind of intention, it was obvious that several of his girlfriends were secretly competing with each other. Brother Guang, what are we doing today? Ichino's Yuki did not delve into this topic and asked instead. Is there anywhere you want to go? Kurosawa Hikaru was asked about this, and after thinking about it, he asked. Whatever you want to do today is naturally what a couple should do. Having said that, even if a man is a vulgar person, he cannot act too vulgar. If you are with your girlfriend and only think about that kind of thing, it may make people think that you are only lusting after her body. Well, I don't know either. Ichino's Yuki was very confused. If she knew, she wouldn't ask. Every date was planned by Brother Guang, and she didn't have much experience in dating, so she had no clue. Think about it again. For example, have you ever been to somewhere that you wanted to come with me? Or maybe you saw some place while surfing the internet that you wanted to go with me. Kurosawa Hikaru guided her while eating breakfast. No, Yuki Ichino shook his head. Last night I said I would play with you today. Didn't you think about doing something with me when you saw me? Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but feel surprised when he found that she had no clue. When Yuki Ichino heard this, she glanced at his handsome face subconsciously, and a blush suddenly appeared on her pretty face. She really never thought about going anywhere with Brother Guang. As long as she could be with Brother Guang, she would be happy no matter what she did. As for what she wanted to do after seeing him, it was of course intimate contact such as a kiss and a hug. Seeing her blush and her shy reaction, Kurosawa immediately understood. If he guessed correctly, he was lusting after Xiaoyuki's body, and Xiaoyuki was also lusting after his body. Realizing her expectations and thoughts, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her beautiful face with red lips and white teeth, a blush on her face, and a peach blossom face. His heartbeat was a little accelerated, and he didn't know what to say for a moment. For a moment, the conversation at the dinner table ended, and the two of them ate breakfast in silence. Kurosawa Hikaru had a huge appetite and ate very quickly, finishing his food in a short time. Brother Guang, I'm sorry. After a while, Ichino's Yuki said while eating. Why did you say sorry all of a sudden? Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her in confusion. I'm full, but there's so much left. Yuki Ichino's big eyes blinked, looking at the food on the plate in front of him. 2 fried chicken nuggets, half of the egg roll left, and a few bites of the sandwich. Because she wanted to try the taste, she ate them all. Are you really full? Even if you want to stay in shape, you still have to eat? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little worried when he heard this. I'm really full, I'm sorry. Ichino's Yuki was very embarrassed and guilty. Even though Brother Guangming had done so much for her, she couldn't eat it. She had eaten as much as possible without considering the calories and fattening, but Brother Guang's portion was too much. It's okay, there's still me. I have a big appetite and can eat it all. After confirming that she really couldn't eat anymore, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't care. He reached for the sandwich and started eating it. Ichino's Yuki was stunned when she saw his actions. What's wrong? Noticing her direct gaze, Kurosawa Hikaru felt something was wrong and asked. Those are all things I have eaten. They are not very clean and contain my saliva, Yuki Ichino reminded. Isn't that better? Kurosawa Hikaru realized her concerns and smiled. Do not you mind? What do you think? Just kidding, How could he mind such a thing? You know, Xiaoyuki is willing to be an ogre for him, but it's just eating some leftovers, so it doesn't matter. Alright. Realizing that he didn't mind eating the rest of his food at all, Ichi-nose Yuki pursed his lips, a little happy. In her opinion, Brother Guang is the kind of boy who is super powerful and has a good quality of life, so she never thought that Brother Guang would be willing to eat her leftovers. Brother Guang. Ichi-nose Yuki was very happy to watch him eat the leftovers. After watching for a while, he thought for a long time and plucked up the courage to shout. What's wrong? Kurosawa Hikaru, who was almost finished eating, raised his eyes to look at her. Do you know the safe period for girls? Yuki Ichi-nose asked curiously. Normally, the safe period refers to the 7 days before and 8 days after a girl's menstrual period. In fact, the safe period is just a term. It just means that the chance of pregnancy will be reduced, but it does not mean that it is zero. Faced with this academic question, Kurosawa answered after recalling it. Neon is quite particular about health and physical education courses. He is also a top student. Even if it is trivial knowledge, he still understands it. If you don't plan to have a child, it's better to take safety measures and don't be careless. This is a responsible approach for both parties. Don't be greedy for a moment of pleasure. Then do you know the absolute safe period? Yuki Ichi-nose saw that he was talking clearly, nodded slightly, and asked again. Absolute safe period. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised to hear this. There is such a thing? I am absolutely safe today. Yuki Ichi-nose nodded slightly and said. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but look at her, and then his eyes slid down. If a girl tells you that she is in the safe period, what does it mean? Those who understand will understand. I would like to recommend the new book of the Love Article Master, Corner Kiss Pig, The Neighbor is Cute Today, and the portal is below. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 390. There are two types of men, one is a beast and the other is worse than a beast. If a man remains unmoved in the face of a woman's strong hints, or even explicit ones, then it's either Ed or there's something wrong with his sexual orientation. Is she hinting at me? No, this is all made clear, right? Kurosawa Hikaru looked sideways at Ichi-nose Yuki beside him, feeling a little stunned. Since he hadn't been with Xiaoyuki for so many days, he felt guilty after realizing this situation and thought about spending the whole day playing with her today. Having said that, plans cannot keep up with changes, and not everything can go as people wish. Maybe it was because the separation was better than the wedding. He felt that today's Yuki Ichi-nose was particularly cute and very pitiable. What he never expected was that Xiaoyuki would be so proactive. Although he has long known that girls are actually more lustful than boys. This lustful thing doesn't just refer to that kind of thing, but also likes good-looking things, cute dolls, and beautiful clothes. However, usually, boys are more extrovert in their lust, while girls are more restrained in their lust. Ridiculous sayings like being like a wolf at 30 and being like a tiger at 40 are actually true. As women grow older, their hearts will become more and more empty. As the attraction of cute dolls and beautiful clothes to them recedes like a tide, their desire for the opposite sex will become particularly obvious. In contrast, girls in their 20s, because of their youth and reserve, will completely bury this emotion. Even if they are lustful, they will be ashamed to speak out. Why did Brother Guang react like this? Was what I said inappropriate? Or is it because I didn't wear black stockings today? Facing his direct gaze, Ichi-nose Yuki couldn't help but feel a little discouraged as he waited for his lack of movement or words to muster up his courage. She suddenly regretted that she had just finished breakfast and said such words. But there was nothing she could do. When she was playing with Lan a few days ago, she suddenly talked about this topic, which was the so-called absolute safety period. Some things, once they start, Get out of hand. Brother Guang is so handsome and has a good figure. She feels very sweet just thinking about it, but Brother Guang is still so kind to her and is even willing to eat what she has eaten. She is moved and feels that super fondness. It was simply unstoppable. You. Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to speak, but he didn't know where to start and couldn't organize his words at all. Since ancient times, it is not unreasonable for heroes to be embarrassed by beauty. Because in this world, there is absolutely no man who can resist the beauty trap. If a man can resist her, it can only be said that the woman's beauty cannot satisfy the man's requirements. Whether Xiao Yuki's beauty can satisfy Kurosawa Hikaru's requirements, the answer is unquestionable: it is too capable. As Xiao Yuki said those words, in Kurosawa Hikaru's eyes, Ichino's Yuki changed, and there seemed to be an extra layer of pink filter on her body. She lowered her head, her pretty face was flushed, her eyelashes were trembling, her cherry lips were slightly pursed, her breath was orchid, she was beautiful and delicate, her skin could be broken by blowing, and her pink face was full of cute. Her green-white fingers were twisted together and placed on her beautiful legs, which were as lazy as doves, and her movements were very nervous and shy, super cute. She is wearing a pair of big furry slippers, and her petite and exquisite feet are gently raised in the air in the shoes, super cute. Men are actually very greedy creatures. Once the things they desire appear in front of them, they will lose their calmness and reason. Are you sure? The more I watched, the more I liked it, and the more I watched, the more excited I became. Kurosawa's lips were a little dry, so he licked his lips gently and asked. I'm afraid only God knows how attractive Xiao Yuki's words are to him. Huh? Ichino's Yuki, who was secretly regretting it, was stunned when he heard this, and then nodded. After receiving this answer, Kurosawa Hikaru finally couldn't hold it in any longer and directly stretched out his hand to wrap around her waist and hugged her. Ah! Suddenly being picked up, Ichino's Yuki was a little at a loss. In the panic, one slipper failed to fit firmly and fell directly to the ground. When she reacted, she found that Brother Guang was hugging her princess. Originally, I thought of waiting until night, but since you said so, I won't be polite. Holding her up completely, Kurosawa Hikaru felt her lightness, looked down at her and said. Why are you so rude? Ichino's Yuki raised her eyes to meet his aggressive eyes and couldn't help but say. What do you think? Seeing that she still dared to provoke, Kurosawa Hikaru held her back with one hand and her thigh with the other. With a gentle squeeze, he carried her straight to the bedroom. My shoe fell off. When Ichino's Yuki saw where he was going with her, she couldn't help but feel ashamed and pointed to the ground. Let's talk about it later. Kurosawa Hikaru naturally found that her shoes had fallen off, but he had no intention of helping her pick them up. He had to take them off anyway. At this moment, he had completely woken up. Although he didn't want Xiao Yuki to think that he was just greedy for her body, but he wanted her to know that what he liked was her as a person and her soul, so he wanted to play with her all day long and wait until the atmosphere at night when you feel you are in position, wait for the opportunity to move. But in fact, when a couple is together, what they want to do most is not to go somewhere to play or to see the scenery, but simply to be with each other. Why was Xiao Yuki confused when he asked him if she had ever thought about going somewhere with him? Her mind went blank, because she just wanted to be with him. As for where you are and what you are doing, it doesn't matter at all, as long as the two of you are together. The two people walked into the bedroom, and the door was closed. After that, they had a good time. 1 p.m., Shibuya Ward, one of Tokyo's 23 wards. Kurosawa Hikaru and Xiao Yuki came outside. After having lunch, they went to the clothing store. Originally, Kurosawa Hikaru planned to eat at home and cook a big meal for Xiao Yuki to help her regain some strength. However, Xiao Yuki felt that it would be too hard for him, so he suggested eating outside. Brother Guang, What do you think of this outfit? As the curtain door of the dressing room opened, Itchy-Nose Yuki, wearing a red dress, asked expectantly. It's not bad, but this color doesn't suit your makeup very well. Kurosawa Hikaru took one look and commented. Under normal circumstances, when a boy is shopping for clothes with his girlfriend, there is only one thing he has to do, and that is praise, and recognition. Because when a girl decides to try on a piece of clothing, it means that she has fallen in love with it. Otherwise, it would be so troublesome for girls to put on and take off clothes, so there is no need to try on a piece of clothing that you don't like at all. But their shopping situation this time was quite special. It was not just to buy clothes, but because Xiaoyuki wanted to learn how to dress. Brightly colored dresses, especially red dresses, are very inappropriate for young and beautiful girls. This kind of clothes is only suitable for a mature-looking lady with a strong aura. Oh. Hearing this comment, Itchy-Nose Yuki was thoughtful, and then closed the curtain of the locker room again. Brother Guang, what about this? Soon, Itchy-Nose Yuki opened the door curtain again. Her clothes remained the same, but she wore a pair of thin black pantyhose under her skirt. Under the knee-length skirt, her slender calves, accentuated by the special color of the black stockings, were extremely sexy and even more attractive. Even if you wear black stockings, red is still. Kurosawa Hikaru took a look and originally wanted to say similar words, but his attitude could not be as firm as before. I have to say that clothing items like stockings are really versatile for girls. Although in terms of makeup, because of her beautiful, youthful, and cute face, it is not very suitable for red, a color that only mature women can control. But with the blessing of black silk stockings, even if her makeup is very light, it still adds a sense of maturity to her, making her look charming. Red still doesn't suit you. Even so, after hesitating, Kurosawa Hikaru pressed the waiver and said firmly. He was doing practical teaching. Even though he did like black stockings, he knew very well what kind of clothing suited to what kind of person, as he had a proficient makeup artist. Okay. Seeing his wavering reaction, Itchy-Nose Yuki covered her mouth and snickered, and then closed the curtain again. Maybe it was because she didn't get recognition, but after trying it on, she actually knew that the red dress didn't suit her, so she deliberately wore black stockings, just to see what Brother Guang's reaction would be. This girl. Noticing her snickering, Kurosawa touched the back of her neck helplessly. I have to say that his quirks were really controlled by Xiaoyuki. But there was no way, who made him unable to hide his fetish in bed. At 2:30 in the afternoon, after spending more than an hour in various clothing stores and trying on many clothes, I finally bought 3 sets of clothes. Brother Guang, you really don't need to buy it cost you money again. Yuki Itchy-Nose and Hikaru Kurosawa walked side by side. This little money can't be considered a waste. You look so beautiful in your clothes. This little money is well spent. Kurosawa Hikaru lifted the 3 bags in his hands and smiled. Although Xiaoyuki is very beautiful and a model, she is very strict with her figure. She is like a natural clothes hanger and looks good no matter what kind of clothes she wears. But these 3 sets of clothes can make his eyes shine. As the saying goes, people rely on clothes and horses rely on saddle. A beautiful woman will look good even if she wears a plastic bag, but if you want to look better, you must still rely on matching. But these clothes are too expensive. Itchy-Nose Yuki also knew this truth, but still couldn't let it go. Because the clothing stores that Brother Guang took her to were all luxuriously decorated stores, so that each piece of clothing cost 30,000 yen. This price is enough for her to buy many sets of clothes. We tried them on in other people's stores for so long and didn't even buy a set. I don't think it's appropriate. At least I want to let people make some money instead of wasting effort and time. Kurosawa Hikaru comforted her. There is actually a big difference in the shopping habits of boys and girls. When boys go shopping, especially after trying on clothes. Even if they don't plan to buy clothes, they will at least want to buy something. After all, they always feel uncomfortable having others serve them. For girls, it may be because they are born with difficulty in making choices. Even if they go to a clothing store and try on clothes for a long time, it is normal for them not to buy any clothes. In fact, the most unbearable thing for boys and girls to go shopping together is that they have no gains. If you go shopping for a few hours and come back with a lot of things, then the result is still satisfactory. If you go shopping for a few hours and don't buy any clothes in the end, then the boys will feel that it is meaningless and a waste of time. I know, but we only need to buy a pair of stockings. Yuki Ichinose also understood the reason, but still said it. Although you can't let others serve you in vain, it's good to buy a single item casually so that the clerk won't get anything in vain. Yuki, if you think that no matter what kind of clothes, as long as you add black stockings, I will like it, then you are wrong. Hearing this, Kurosawa Mitsuru said righteously. Isn't it? Yuki Ichinose looked at him with a surprised look. No, black stockings also need to be matched. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and said firmly. Perhaps black stockings are a versatile item for women, but there is still a difference between good-looking and bad-looking. What if you don't match anything and only wear black stockings? Ichinose Yuki saw his confident look, paused for a few seconds, and asked again. As she said it, she felt that what she said was too shameful, and her pretty face suddenly heated up. Because she found that Brother Guang really liked her feet. It was okay at ordinary times, but once they got to bed, that love was as terrible as a flood. What if you don't match anything and only wear black stockings? Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru only felt that the sentence was lingering in his ears, touching his heart, and penetrating his soul. The next moment, he came to his senses, turned his feet, and suddenly walked in the opposite direction. Brother Guang, where are you going? Ichinose Yuki saw him turn around suddenly came to his senses and was a little confused, and hurried to follow him. Go back and buy stockings. Kurosawa Hikaru's steps were not fast, but he was extremely determined. He decided that he would buy black stockings, white stockings, and flesh-colored stockings. If you don't seize the opportunity to meet a girlfriend who is willing to wear stockings for you and has a pair of beautiful legs, it would be a waste of talent. After a while, Kurosawa Hikaru walked out of a clothing store with a bag in his hand. Brother Hikaru, we have bought clothes. Where are we going next? Ichinose Yuki, who followed him and stretched out his hand, was a little surprised to see his swift and decisive action, and asked again. Faced with this question, Kurosawa Hikaru stood at the door and looked around. During the inspection, his eyes were fixed. Noticing his movements, Ichinose Yuki also followed his gaze and saw a sign called Night Story Love Hotel. Shibuya is a street for young people, with famous department stores, fashion stores, restaurants, coffee shops, amusement facilities, custom facilities, and various stores. Among them, there is another type of store, which is a couple hotel. Seeing this scene, Yuki Ichinose's heartstrings couldn't help but tremble, and she couldn't help but look at Brother Guang beside her. Could it be that Brother Guang plans to go to this hotel next? Little Yuki. Facing her gaze, Kurosawa Guang retracted his gaze and met her eyes. What's wrong? I have tried on the clothes I just bought. They fit well, right? Yes. I don't know if these stockings fit well. Is it better to try them on? After laying the groundwork, Kurosawa Guang asked shamelessly. It's better to try them on. Realizing his plot, Yuki Ichinose was a little shy, but still nodded. Obviously, Brother Guang was stimulated by what she said just now. Then let's go. Seeing her nod, Kurosawa Guang extended his right hand to her. Yeah. Yuki Ichinose saw his palm with slender fingers and reached out to shake his hand. In the evening, in a restaurant in Shibuya. As he ate, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help twisting his waist and making an unusual sound. "Brother Hikaru, what's wrong?" Ichi-nose Yuki, who was sitting next to him, was a little puzzled when she saw his movements. After a day of sweet dating, her pretty face still had a faint afterglow, which could be described as spring breeze blowing on her face and peach blossoms charming her eyes. "The ancients were honest with me." In response to this doubt, Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was very limp and weak all over just now, but after such a while, she was full of energy again, and couldn't help but sigh. Ichi-nose Yuki tilted her head in some confusion. "There are only cows that die of exhaustion, but no fields that are plowed to death." Kurosawa Hikaru was really scared when he saw her cute tilted head, and couldn't help but say. Although he was a handsome young man with blood and a superman with superb physical fitness, he couldn't stand 6 hours of physical work a day. In theory, his physical fitness is definitely several times stronger than that of Yuki. But it was obvious that he had kidney and back pain, but Yuki was fine. "Brother Guang, are you speaking Japanese or some other language? I don't understand." Yuki Ichi-nose was a little surprised when she heard that and couldn't help but say. "It clearly sounds like the pronunciation of Neon language, but the meaning of the sentence is hard to understand." "I understand everything." Kurosawa smiled and did not give her an explanation. In fact, this sentence is used to describe things between men and women, and its meaning is not very good. "Brother Guang, what do you mean? Tell me." Realizing that he was deliberately showing off, Ichi-nose Yuki held his arm and shook him, coquettishly. "Really want to know? Of course it's true. The meaning of the sentence is that in the day after day of work, the oxen will die of exhaustion, but the land will not be damaged." Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and explained. "Does this have anything to do with the ancients sincerely not bullying you, and your twist just now?" Although he explained, Ichi-nose Yuki still didn't understand. Seeing that she didn't understand, Kurosawa simply put his mouth to hers and explained it in detail, simply and clearly. "I'm very tired too." Following some whispers, Ichi-nose Yuki's face suddenly turned red and she rolled her eyes at him. "I didn't say you weren't tired, I just thought you recovered quickly, that's why I said that." Seeing that she was a little unhappy, Kurosawa Hikaru stretched out his arms to hug her and coaxed her. "Are you really tired?" Yuki Ichi-nose couldn't help but ask after thinking of his situation just now. "Fortunately, I can still withstand it." Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head. Although he felt a little pain in his back, his physical fitness was there and he was just a little overloaded. "That's good." Seeing that he was fine, Ichi-nose Yuki immediately felt relieved. "Xiao Yuki, have you ever heard that men and women are paired together so that you can work without getting tired?" Taking this opportunity, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and asked. "No." Yuki Ichi-nose shook her head. "It means." Seeing that she had never heard of it, Kurosawa Hikaru gave her a simple explanation. "So that's it, then Brother Guang, have a good rest tonight, I will work hard." After listening to his explanation, Ichi-nose Yuki's beautiful eyes opened slightly, and as her eyes moved, she became aware, and suddenly she was eager to try. "You need to have a good rest." When Kurosawa Hikaru heard this, he nodded with peace of mind, but immediately felt that something was wrong. Effort. What is she trying to do? Could it be that after eating a full meal and going home later, he still wouldn't have any rest? Even though his physical fitness is very strong, he is not an ironclad robot after all. After all, he is a body of flesh and blood. He works from morning to night, and no one can hold him back. Brother Guang, the absolute safe period is only 1 day a month. Facing his gaze, Ichi-nose Yuki said coquettishly. She hadn't seen Brother Guang for so many days, and it was a pity that it ended after dinner after she finally had one date. Realizing that she wanted to fight again later, Kurosawa Hikaru saw her bright and lovely look and didn't know what to say for a moment. I'll help you later. Seeing that he didn't speak, Yuki Ichino's thought of the secret that Lan had taught her, leaned into his ear, and said. Xiao Yuki, I didn't expect you to be a martial arts master. Kurosawa Hikaru heard her whisper and looked at her sideways. Martial arts master. Ichino's Yuki was a little confused when she heard this. That's right. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded, looking at her cute look, he was filled with emotions. He thought he was already invincible, but he never thought that Xiao Yuki was braver than him and was actually a peerless master in practicing star-absorbing technique. What does this mean? The star-absorbing technique is a martial art in Jin Yang's martial arts novel The Swordsman. It can drain other people's internal energy. It is always like an empty box and always like a deep valley. Then what? You are a martial arts master who practices the star-absorbing technique. It is like a bottomless pit that can suck people dry. Kurosawa squinted at her. Hate, I didn't mean to suck you dry, it's just that I don't want to go home today. Yuki Ichino's realized the meaning of what he just said, couldn't help but spat at him, and muttered with some resentment. Why don't you want to go home? Did you have a quarrel with your family? Kurosawa Hikaru smiled, grasped the key information in her sentence, and expressed concern. I have such a good relationship with my parents, why are we quarreling? It's just Brother Guang that you are finally free. I want to stay with you for a while. Yuki Ichino shook her head and responded. She knows that Brother Guang is very busy, busy with studies, busy with work, and spending time with other girlfriends, that's why she wants to cherish every minute, every second she can spend with Brother Guang. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 391. Weekends are a time of joy for most people. Perhaps during this period, students are still on summer vacation, and it doesn't matter whether it's a weekend or not, but even office workers still have a holiday. To put it bluntly, weekends represent carnival, rest, and fun. Manufacturers and stores around the world will more or less organize some activities for weekends to attract more customers. On Saturday, the usually deserted streets became very lively. As for those bustling neighborhoods, they are even more bustling and overcrowded. Even though night falls and the day reaches evening, the excitement remains unabated. August 27, Saturday, 6 o'clock in the evening, in front of the apartment door. Kurosawa Hikaru stood at the door, waiting. During this process, he did not make any movements. He held it directly in his hand as the mobile phone in his pocket vibrated. The phone vibrates because there are new incoming messages. Line group chat message, blue beautiful girl, there are still 6 hours. 0 Hour Master will release a new single. Sato, it's finally here, I don't know which song it will be this time. Hinata, I hope it will be a single of the same type as Flight of the Bumblebee. I recently listened to Croatian Rhapsody and The Bell while driving, especially Flight of the Bumblebee. I feel like I am about to fly. Aoi, watch your speed. I don't want to see you in the morgue. Hinata, that's too much, are you cursing me? Hitomi, are Master 0 Hour songs that good? I feel pretty good. Yuki, how could it be that it's okay? Master 0 Hour songs are all masterpieces. Blue and blue beautiful girl, that's right. This is a group of 8 hot girls. There are news every day, but it is not particularly lively. After all, these people are all live depositors. If they really want to chat, they can meet directly offline. But something is different today. Just like Shianae said, there are still 6 hours until the 0 Hour release time for the new single. Because of this matter, when he went out to eat with Xiaoyuki at noon, he heard many people talking about it at the dinner table, which was related to this. Most of the 8-member Spice Girls have been to the Tokyo Bunkakaikan and witnessed the live performance at 0 Hour, and they all more or less became fans. The most important thing is that because Neon is very committed to being gregarious and not falling behind, the 8 hot girls will participate in and express their opinions on various topics. Seeing this information, Kurosawa Hikaru did not participate. He was still waiting for the bus. In addition, he never pursues the idea of being gregarious. It's not that the weak form groups. The strong always move forward alone, but they just can't participate. Should it be said to be a tradition or a sense of ritual? After having the first time, Igarashi Runa attached great importance to the release of new songs and wanted to gather together to see the results. Not long after, a car came to the door of the apartment. Boarding. The car window was lowered. Igarashi Runa pressed the steering wheel with one hand, turned slightly sideways, and shook her head slightly when she saw Kurosawa Hikari standing erect at the door. Good. Seeing that she seemed to enjoy asking people to get in the car, Kurosawa smiled, took a few steps forward, opened the passenger door, and sat down neatly. You sit in the back. Following his movements, Igarashi Runa suddenly said. Why? Kurosawa Hikaru, who was about to pull up his seat belt, was a little confused when he heard this. He looked back and saw that there was no one in the back seat. When there are only 2 people in the car, it's okay if you take a taxi. After all, the driver is a professional driver. If the driver is a friend, it is basic etiquette to sit in the passenger seat. We have to pick up Chizuru first. It won't be good if she sees you sitting in front later. Igarashi Runa didn't know what kind of etiquette and habits he was motivated by, but just expressed his concerns. Isn't it okay to change places when we arrive later? Kurosawa Hikaru did not agree, but expressed his opinion. Different from before, he is now reunited with Ninomiya Chizuru. They will release a new single tonight, and they will witness that it is no longer just him and MS Runa, but 3 people together like in the beginning. Yes, but wouldn't it be better for you to change now? But sitting in the back seat is like treating you as the driver, which is not good. Leaving aside etiquette, Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to sit closer to her. If you sit in the back seat, you will feel far away, and you won't even have to look at your beautiful legs. How can a serious man consciously sit in the back seat when riding in a beautiful woman's car? What if I want to be your driver? Seeing that he insisted on sitting in the front seat, Igarashi Runa put her hands on the steering wheel and looked at him slightly, with a slight arc at the corner of her mouth. How to calculate the fare? Seeing her smile, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't dodge and made eye contact with her. Do the accounting first, then do the math later. When Igarashi Runa heard this, her heart skipped a beat. She recalled what happened that night and suddenly blushed. The reason why she blushed was because after she woke up, she found that her performance and behavior were too casual and wanton. That night, under the influence of alcohol and Kurosawa's endless tricks of sultry tricks, her long-suppressed emotions were directly ignited by 2 kisses, and she immediately wanted to have sex with him. Although she had a crush on Kurosawa a long time ago, as they got acquainted and contacted him, this feeling gradually evolved into love. But in fact, the relationship between them has just begun. However, they didn't even hold hands, but they were heading straight for the home run. This progress was too fast. Then you have to settle the bill as soon as possible. If it takes too long, I might default on the bill. Kurosawa Hikaru was immediately happy when he saw her cute reaction with a slight blush on her pretty face. Apparently, after sobering up, she came to her senses. It has to be said that when he faced her extremely straightforward statement that night, his heart was very shaken and he was really fascinated. However, it might be the reminder of the date mission, or it might be her soft and charming voice that made him clearly realize that she was drunk, so he chose to stop at the cliff. Oh! Igarashi Runa felt a little restless when she thought about the secret between the driver and the passengers. The fare they were talking about was not Japanese yen at all, but something else. After deciding the matter, Kurosawa Hikaru no longer insisted on sitting in the front and chatting with her for a while, but got out of the car and moved to the back seat. After he sat firmly again, Igarashi Runa drove. After all, it was not good to park the car at the gate of the apartment. "Why don't you pick up Sister Kinhee first this time?" As they set off, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the driver's seat curiously. From the angle of the seat, he could see the backside of Igarashi Runa's face, which looked both handsome and gentle, with a unique temperament. I have to say that the charm and style of beauties with short hair are really unique. He had seen a saying before that all beauties with short hair were real beauties. You know, if you want to manage short hair, it depends on your appearance. Because there's something I want to tell you. Igarashi Runa said without looking back. Could it be that you want to express your feelings? Isn't it appropriate here? Hearing such a solemn beginning, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly interrupted. How can it be a confession? Don't talk nonsense about what happened the day before yesterday in front of Kins. Igarashi Runa, who was still very nervous and serious at first, spat at him when he heard this and warned him. Which thing? I was attracted by a female client during a business meeting. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't expect that she would specifically tell her about this, so he was a little surprised, and then he pretended to be stupid and said blankly. It's about me drinking with you. Realizing that he was pretending to be stupid, Igarashi Runa felt a little ashamed, but she could only speak clearly. Isn't it a matter of holding my waist and not letting me go? Both. Talking about the details at that time, Igarashi Runa's ears turned red. That night, she was like a hungry female gangster. It was clear that Kurosawa was planning to leave, but she stopped him from leaving, as if she was trying to pull him into bed. Chizuru must not let Chizuru know about this matter under any circumstances. Regardless of whether she would be laughed at, she was worried that Chizuru would be jealous and angry. You know, the relationship between Chizuru and Kurosawa seems to have stopped at the kiss stage, but she almost overtook him in a corner. Don't worry, this is our secret. Seeing that she was embarrassed, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't want her to be distracted by driving, so he promised her without teasing her. Having settled this matter in advance, Igarashi Runa's lingering thoughts were finally settled. Did Yuki-chan say anything to you after our video call the day before yesterday? After deciding the matter, Kurosawa Hikaru remembered the previous video and asked. No. Any unhappy reactions? No, after the video ended, she just asked me some questions about the interview, such as what I should do to satisfy the dance teacher. Really, I feel like she didn't hear what you meant by those words, and didn't even pay attention. That's hard to say. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head at this conclusion. This girl's powers of observation are very strong, and she is especially sensitive to other people's eyes. Maybe he didn't say kiss or anything like that during the video, but because he didn't know that Yuki-chan was there at the time, he thought he was still chatting alone, so his tone of voice when he spoke was teasing. She seemed very happy that day, and she was very friendly to me. She didn't have any jealous or unhappy reactions at all, she was just frustrated when the interview failed. Igarashi Runa thought about it carefully and still insisted on her opinion. Didn't she succeed in the interview? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little confused when he heard this. That night, he really received the good news. When he came home from his part-time job, he made a video call with Xiaoyuki, and she smiled so happily. It was successful, but the teacher of the dance studio where the video was located confiscated her and scolded her. Later, I took her to find another dance teacher and it was successful, didn't she tell you? Igarashi Runa nodded, and after explaining, he felt surprised. No. Then what did the teacher say about her? Is it too much? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little stunned when he thought about what happened before, and then he became concerned. He originally thought everything went smoothly, because Xiaoyuki was always very happy when she was with him. Unexpectedly, She had encountered setbacks, but she didn't show them in front of him, and he didn't complain to her. It's actually not bad. What specifically did you say about her? At her age, she has no dance foundation at all and is not qualified to join her dance class. There are no 10-year-old children who can dance better than her. Is Xiaoyuki's performance so bad? That's not true. Among the newcomers I discovered, she has performed very well as a beginner learning dance. Her physical condition is excellent, whether it is softness, body proportions, or rhythm. She was outstanding. Later, the teacher who accepted her as a student also said that she was very talented and had great potential, and said that it would be better if she practiced dancing since she was a child. Kurosawa Hikaru learned about the situation that day and was thoughtful. He knew only too well how soft Xiaoyuki's body was, and he could say he experienced it firsthand. He didn't accept Xiaoyuki as a student, and even talked about it. He felt a little unhappy, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't come to visit and let others forcefully accept him as a disciple, right? The question he was thinking about was what he could do for Xiaoyuki in this matter. Kurosawa, don't worry, I will never let my artists be wronged, it's just that apprenticeship is just like a job interview. There is nothing you can do if people think you don't meet their requirements. I have comforted her. To be honest, with Miss Ichino's condition and potential, the teacher will definitely regret it in the future if she confiscates it. Igarashi Runa saw his thoughtful reaction through the rearview mirror and comforted him. Why do you regret it? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little confused. That teacher doesn't know that behind Miss Ichino's there are you, the piano master 0 hour, and me as a golden agent. Wait until one day, Miss Ichino's will be famous all over the country, and she will be on posters and billboards in the streets. She will definitely regret that she missed a student with great potential. Is this how you comforted her? Yes, that dance teacher doesn't know that Miss Ichino's still has you as a backstage. When the day comes when she becomes famous in the streets, especially when she is about to win an award, I will definitely send her an invitation to the award ceremony. Will they come? It doesn't matter if she comes or not, the key is to make her regret missing out on a superstar student. Ha ha ha. Realizing that what she said to him now, I am afraid she also said it to Xiaoyuki, Kurosawa Hikaru was suddenly stunned, and then smiled. No wonder Xiaoyuki didn't look unhappy at all from the night before yesterday until this afternoon when she separated from him. It turned out that he had been enlightened. Why are you laughing? She will really regret it? This sudden laughter made Igarashi Runa a little depressed. Is her revenge plan ridiculous? As an agent, she knows exactly how much wealth a star can bring. In the entertainment industry, there is a huge difference between being popular and not being popular. As long as you are popular, it can be said that one person has achieved enlightenment, and chickens and dogs can ascend to heaven. To put it bluntly, if Yuki Ichino's became famous, she would not need to say anything publicly, people would be crazy to investigate her affairs. Her friends, her family, her past will all be discovered. Just like this, her dance teacher will also become famous together. I'm just thinking that you made the right decision to let her be your artist. Naturally, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't think she was ridiculous, so he leaned back on the back seat, feeling very relieved. Whether in life or at work, Igarashi Runa is excellent. This is the fundamental reason why he made up his mind to let Xiaoyuki sign with 0 Hour Agency. It is reassuring to leave Xiaoyuki's career development to her. Of course, I'm telling you, Miss Ichino's will definitely become popular, and if you plan to make her the heroine of the MV later, she may become famous overnight. If she dances in the future, especially if you're so surprised, that teacher will definitely feel ashamed. Igarashi Runa commented on this and felt very happy. When your abilities and existence are affirmed, it will bring people a pleasant feeling, that is, a sense of value. Then we'll see. Kurosawa nodded and said no more. Since Xiaoyuki didn't plan to tell him about being cheated in the interview, he didn't ask too much. Speaking of which, when the new single is released tonight, the matter between you and Chizuru will be officially announced. Ichi knows Yuki, have you dealt with it? Igarashi Runa knew that failing the interview was a minor problem. After thinking for a while, she suddenly asked. No. Kurosawa shook his head. Don't you tell her in advance. No chance to speak. Kurosawa opened his mouth, unable to finish a word. In fact, since the new single is going to be released tonight and it has to be officially announced, he knows that this matter needs to be dealt with. But the problem is that after he met Xiaoyuki yesterday, they were always sweet and sweet from morning to night, and there was really no chance to talk about things related to other girlfriends. If you don't prepare her mentally in advance, what will happen if she is very sad? Tell her. When you see Kinzuru later, you won't have a chance to talk to her. Igarashi Runa suddenly felt worried. Compared with the malice of strangers, unfair treatment from acquaintances is the most hurtful. Although the official announcement is definitely a good thing for Kinhee. But it's not a good thing for Kurosawa's other two girlfriends. The question was suddenly put in front of him, and Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but shovel his hair with his hands. After thinking about it, he took out his phone and opened Line. The chat history between him and Xiaoyuki stopped at 5:30, when she said she had arrived home safely and chatted for a few words. Call and talk. Seeing him typing through the rearview mirror, Igarashi Runa suggested. Hearing this reminder, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a moment and made a video call instead of voice. Brother Guang, aren't you going to work in the office? Why do you have time to make a video call to me? Soon, the call was connected, and Ichino's Yuki's energetic smiling face appeared on the phone, and her voice was very brisk and coquettish. Yuki-chan. Seeing her always happy, relaxing and comfortable smile, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't answer, but called her. I am here. Yuki Ichino's on the other side found that his attitude was a bit serious and immediately responded. Is there anyone beside you? No, I saw you calling over the video, so I went back to the room. I'm going to give you a little spoiler. Kurosawa Hikaru thought about his words and decided to take it step by step. Spoiler. Hearing this statement, Ichino's Yuki was immediately interested. Tonight at 12 o'clock, the new single will be released at midnight. This is not just a single, but also 0 Hour's first MV. No. The heroine of the first MV is Ninomiya Chizuru. I know. Do you know, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. 0 Hour's official Twitter posted a message saying that there is a new MV, and you didn't take me to shoot it, so it must be someone else. Ichino's Yuki nodded and said matter-of-factly. I will shoot Dream Wedding for you next time, and I will shoot many MVs for you in the future. Seeing that she had discovered it a long time ago, Kurosawa Hikaru observed her expression and found that she was calm, but still comforted her. Okay. Hearing this, Yuki Ichino's eyes lit up and he nodded happily. And then there's one more thing. After making amends to her in advance, Kurosawa changed the subject. What? When the new MV is released tonight, there will be an official announcement at midnight. Kurosawa Hikaru took a deep breath and talked about the most important thing. Official announcement. When Ichino's Yuki heard this, her beautiful eyes turned curious. One thing to announce is that the heroine of this new MV is my girlfriend from 0 Hour. Seeing that she was still looking forward to it, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but hesitate, but he still made up his mind. The official announcement cannot be kept secret, and it will be announced to the world in less than 6 hours. By then, even if he deliberately concealed it, Xiaoyuki, who was waiting in the group with Lan and the others for the release of the new single, would definitely know. You mean to announce the heroine of the new MV? Is Ms. Ninomiya her zero-time girlfriend? Ichino's Yuki was stunned when he heard this, and then asked after understanding. Right. Kurosawa nodded nervously and looked at her face. Not only him, but Igarashi Runa, who was driving, was also worried. Is this what Brother Guang wants to spoil? Right. Wouldn't there be big news tonight? After learning about this, Ichino's Yuki became aware and his eyes widened. Is that just your reaction? When Kurosawa Hikaru saw her reaction, he couldn't help but feel a sense of disparity in his heart and was very surprised. Although he had vaccinated Xiao Yuki beforehand and made an agreement to compensate him beforehand, this reaction was really beyond expectations. In fact, this happened more than once. For example, when he mentioned his intention to pursue Miss Runa before, her reaction was beyond expectations. Otherwise, how should I react? Such as being jealous, angry, sad, etc. Kurosawa said with a sigh. I'm definitely still a little jealous, but there's no need to be angry or sad. Why? Because I was happy yesterday and today. Yuki Ichino's big eyes were full of smiles, and they were curved like two crescent ships. Her lips were red and her teeth were white, and she had a beautiful smile. At the beginning of the month, although Shushu was not able to add more updates as originally agreed, I still shamelessly asked for a monthly ticket. Dear readers who like this book, please do so. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 392. I thought it would be a serious and terrible situation, but the result was beyond expectations. After a few more small talk, the video call was hung up. What do you mean you were happy yesterday and today? Realizing this, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but ask. Because I'm with her. To this question, Kurosawa Hikaru paused for 2 seconds before answering. What did you do to make her so happy? Igarashi Runa was a little curious. Even though she couldn't see the video, she could feel the happiness just listening to Yuki Ichino's voice. It was clearly an official announcement and it was supposed to be a bombshell, but it suddenly went silent without causing any splash. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't answer this time. What could he say? He had been with Xiao Yuki since yesterday morning, and they didn't separate until 5 o'clock just now. As for what I did during the more than a day and a half, it's hard to say. Sometimes, silence is a kind of answer, and the attitude of leaving blank can make people endlessly daydream. Igarashi Runa was an adult after all, and she suddenly became aware of his unspeakable reaction. It goes without saying what a couple will do together. The reason why couples are lovers is mostly because of love. Miss Ichino's has such a good personality. I originally thought she would get angry and make trouble with you. Thinking of the situation, Igarashi Runa quickly changed the subject after being embarrassed. She never got into trouble with me or got angry with me. Skipping the topic just now, Kurosawa Hikaru held the phone and put it in his pocket. Never once. Igarashi Runa, who meant to express emotion, was a little shocked when she heard this. No, Kurosawa nodded. Even on August 10, Xiao Yuki never made trouble with him, nor was she angry, but she cried for him. Real or fake? Igarashi Runa was not questioning, but feeling unbelievable. The difference between a young girl and a royal sister is not as simple as the difference in appearance and temperament, but the difference in age, experience, thoughts, and behavior. Putting aside Sister Yu for the moment, as an agent, she has seen many cases. For example, several of the artists she signed are secretly in love. Girls who are not deeply involved in the world and are young are prone to losing their temper. They are basically love-minded and can sacrifice a lot for love. They can also become jealous and do many outrageous behaviors for the sake of love. This was the first time she had encountered a girl like Ichino's Yuki who was neither angry nor troubled. Originally, she thought Ichino's Yuki was the kind of person who smiled brightly on the surface, but in private, When they were two people, he would act coquettishly, compete for favors, flirt with someone, and be very cunning, but now it seems that she misjudged. There has never been any trouble, and she has never been angry. In love, girls often pretend to be themselves to make their boyfriends like them more. In fact, this is true. But Kurosawa Hikaru's situation is different. It's not a conventional love, he is a playboy who has many things to do. Logically speaking, if a girl really likes her boyfriend, no matter how well she pretends, she will still get angry and make trouble. Real. Kurosawa, aren't you always nice to her? Igarashi thought about it and suddenly asked. Why do you think so? Kurosawa Hikaru raised his eyes and looked at the front seat, wondering whether he is good to Sayuki or not. He has a ruler in his heart and knows it very well. Among the three girlfriends currently, he loves and dotes on her the most, and the one who accompanies her to pursue her is definitely Sayuki. Chizuru had been in a cold war with him for a while. As for the future, she had no freedom. Even though he was scheduled to spend 3 days every week with Mirai, the number of dates between them was very few. In contrast, as long as there are no special circumstances, he will chat and video chat with Sayuki every day, and if he is free, he will go on dates. Because if a girl doesn't dare to get angry or make trouble, it means that the man is not good enough to the woman, and she doesn't feel safe enough in her heart. She is afraid that if she doesn't do well, the man will abandon her. Igarashi Runa thought of another type, which is fans falling in love with idols. Even though the artist's private life is very chaotic and inconsistent, the fan is unwilling to break up, and follows him obediently, even kneeling down to beg for reconciliation. When she saw this situation, as a bystander, she felt very angry, but also found it ridiculous. Is it worth it to be just a stinky man? That's impossible. I gave her a lot of security, Kurosawa denied. So confident? Could it be that you thought so unilaterally? When she was at the Budokan, she hugged you tightly and cried. Wasn't it because she didn't feel safe enough? Igarashi Runa noticed that he was very confident and reminded her. That was indeed the case that time. Later, in order to prevent this from happening again, I gave her a sense of security. How did you give it? Actions, attitudes, and agreements. Then why doesn't she cry or make trouble? Maybe it's because her character is too sensible, maybe she feels too secure, or maybe she wants me to be happy. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head, unable to give a clear answer. A woman's heart, a needle under the sea. To be honest, he still doesn't understand why Sayuki reacted happily when he heard him say that he wanted to pursue Miss Runa. Did she ever say she hoped you would be happy? Hearing this, Igarashi Runa paused for a while and asked again. I told you. Kurosawa Hikaru found that she suddenly had the answer, and couldn't help but be curious. Is she easily satisfied? It's not easy. In the process of getting to know and get along with Sayuki, he had such feelings more than once. This girl is very easy to be satisfied. As long as she sees him, she will be extremely happy. As for going on dates with him, going to the movies together, and even eating ice cream together, she will laugh happily. That feeling of joy and happiness is not just fake. Does she know you like her? What's the question? Are you asking me if I have ever confessed to her that I like her? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised, and suddenly felt a little guilty. His 3 current girlfriends were all coaxed back without confessing their feelings. To talk about the steps, in the process of dating again and again, with the ambiguous and intimate atmosphere and the progress of skin contact, they naturally fell in love with each other. Together. Of course, although he didn't explicitly say I like you, he had made a confession with a similar meaning when he and Sayuki were taking photos in the hotel. If you don't leave, I won't give up. Confession is not important at all. It is just an act to show your attitude. What's more, Saying I like you means nothing at all. The key is whether your actions and attitude can make her feel that you like her. Igarashi Runa shook his head slightly. The drama of confessing is not important at all, it is two different things from proposing. In her view, confession is just one of the actions that breaks through the layer of paper between friends and lovers. In fact, not all couples and lovers are like those shown on TV, who must confess their feelings before they can be together. I like you is not a simple sentence, the key lies in emotion. Then she must know. Aware of actions and attitudes, Kurosawa is self-aware. Then I know why she doesn't cry or make trouble. Finding that he was still absolutely confident when faced with similar problems, Igarashi Runa thought thoughtfully and came to a conclusion. Obviously, Kurosawa can be sure that he is very good to Miss Ichinos. Otherwise, he would not be so confident when faced with similar problems twice. What reason? Because she knows how to be content. That's all. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little stunned when he heard this conclusion. He had guessed this possibility before. That's good enough. Maybe he didn't understand, but Igarashi Runa figured it out and said softly. As long as we can be together, I hope he is happy. Isn't this the same situation for her? She knew that Kurosawa was a playboy and that he had several girlfriends, but she still wanted to tell more stories with him and enjoy being with him. She clearly hated playboys in the past, and she had made up her mind to stay away from such scumbag men in the future. However, the reality is beyond the original intention. Kurosawa Hikaru had no words, just thoughtful. He is not a woman, so he cannot empathize. He treats the same thing from a different perspective. When a person's advantages outweigh his disadvantages, you won't care about his shortcomings. She knows that she is happy to be with you, so she can accept it even if there are some things that are not satisfactory. Realizing that he couldn't understand, Igarashi Runa simply said. Kurosawa is very carefree and not dedicated, which is indeed a shortcoming, but there are more shining points in him. Does the flaws not cover up the virtues? When Kurosawa Hikaru heard these words, the confusion that had been hanging over his heart for many days, and he still couldn't understand its meaning, suddenly became enlightened. At this moment, he finally understood what Xiaoyuki meant by what he said after learning about the official announcement. Maybe the official announcement was not good news, but the interaction between yesterday and today made her very happy, so she could accept it. Not long after, the car finally reached its destination. Here we are, I'll send a message to Chizuru. Igarashi Runa put on the handbrake and said with her cell phone. Aren't you going to pick her up at her house? Kurosawa Hikaru found that the surrounding environment was quite unfamiliar and looked at the scenery outside through the car window. She took leave on Monday and accumulated some work. She has been working overtime these days, you don't know, right? Igarashi Runa shook her head and explained. Suddenly she realized something and turned back to look at him. She didn't tell me. Facing her surprised look, Kurosawa paused. He really didn't know about this. He only knew that Kins was on leave and didn't have time this week. He had to wait until next week to buy a car. Have you ever talked to her? Igarashi Runa looked at him suspiciously. Is this guy just spending time with his two little girlfriends and neglecting Kinzuru? Of course we talked about it. How did you talk? Every day before going to bed, send each other messages and say good night. That's it? She needs to go to bed early and get up early, and I've been busy lately. Every time I send her a message, it's already her bedtime. Facing her speechless gaze, Kurosawa was a little helpless. Kurosawa, compared to Ichinos and Shifenjin, Chizuru is indeed older and has a more mature personality, but it is also her first time in love, and she also needs companionship. Igarashi Runa was a little angry and defended her best friend. I know, but there's nothing I can do about it. Kurosawa Hikaru naturally knew that Chizuru also needed company. Why can't we do anything? On Monday, the three of us will go to Asira Valley together. What are you doing on Tuesday? I woke up early in the morning to edit the music video, and worked part-time as a tutor in the afternoon. It was almost 11 o'clock when I got home. What about Wednesday? What do you think? Kurosawa Hikari looked at her faintly. What about Thursday? Igarashi Runa was stunned when he heard this, and then felt guilty for a while, so he skipped the day. Because that day, Kurosawa was driven to the office early in the morning by her, where he met clients for business meetings, signed contracts, and negotiated specific implementation plans. As for the evening, he went drinking with her and took her home by the way. Doing the set list in the morning and working part-time in the afternoon. What about Friday? Stay with Yuki-chan. Even if you have to accompany Miss Ichino's, you can still spare some time to spend with Chizuru, right? Can't pull it out. Have you been together all day? Kurosawa just glanced at her and didn't respond. How can it be so simple for a whole day? It's a day and a half spent together. Accompanying Xiaoyuki this time is not a date mission, nor is it a date that has been planned for a long time, but simply a couple's time. You are such a busy person, what about tomorrow? Realizing that his time this week was fully scheduled, Igarashi Runa complained and asked again. Is this a man who has 3 girlfriends and still has a career? I'm free tonight. Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and said. If he had followed the previous schedule and had eloped with Future to go on a date at the beach this week, he would definitely not be free tomorrow. After all, if you want to elope, you must run far away, and you also have to let her watch the fireworks. But because of Future's consideration and not being in a hurry to elope, he was able to have some free time around 6 o'clock in the evening. What are you going to do then? Igarashi Runa didn't even ask him what he was busy with, but after finding out that he was free, he asked him. Stay with Sister Chizuru. After her reminder, Kurosawa Hikaru already had the answer in his heart. That's right, you can't focus on one thing and lose the other. Igarashi Runa was very satisfied with this. I know. In fact, I am accompanying Chizuru-san tonight. Kurosawa Hikaru naturally knew this truth. Tonight, the 3 of us are waiting for the new video together in the office. How can we be with her? We are not alone together. Someone can be a light bulb, which is not conducive to the warming of the relationship. Igarashi Runa is very clear about her situation. Although Chizuru was encouraging her to seduce Kurosawa and wanted her to join in and the 3 of them would be together. But Chizuru is thin-skinned, and there is no way she can do something intimate with Kurosawa while she is present. For example, when they went to Atara Valley to shoot the MV on Monday, Chizuru and Kurosawa just sat and hugged each other, which was relatively intimate. They didn't do anything like holding hands or kissing. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru had some realization, and it seemed that this was true. He didn't realize it before, but looking back, his relationship with Chizuru hadn't warmed up for a long time. Although feelings are there, the progress of physical contact is still at the kiss stage. Perhaps this situation was related to the previous Cold War period, but if Miss Runa was around, he and Chizuru would not be able to have more intimate contact. Kinzuru is off work. She will come down after packing her things. You can pick her up at the door. Igarashi Runa thought for a while and then suggested. She felt guilty about this matter. As far as she knew, the relationship between Kurosawa and Chizuru was still at the kiss stage. As a result, this kind of relationship was evened by her in one night. What's more, she almost dragged Kurosawa into bed. You sure? Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her in surprise when he heard this request. I'm sure, she is your girlfriend. What happened to picking her up from get off work? Igarashi Runa didn't know why he said that. Actually, I told her that I would pick her up from get off work today. After all, we must go to the office together today, but she didn't agree and asked me not to come to the bank to find her. Why? She doesn't want you to see her in her bank uniform. In a few hours, after the official announcement, she will be the girlfriend from Zero Time in the eyes of the world. Sorry, I forgot about this. Suddenly remembering that there was such a thing, Igarashi Runa was stunned and suddenly felt a little annoyed. Chizuru is Kurosawa Hikaru's girlfriend, and only a few people know about it. In contrast, in more than 5 hours, when the official announcement is made, people will know that Chizuru is 0 Hour's girlfriend. Don't worry, I won't neglect her. I know how to treat her well. Realizing that she was concerned and confused, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't care and assured her. Although he will indeed hurt his girlfriend's heart when it comes to flirting, but he is very measured when it comes to how to make his girlfriend happy. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Igarashi Runa calmed down and said the same. Maybe there was some ambiguity between them because of the drunkenness on Wednesday night, but she would not forget her original intention. She hopes that her best friend, Chizuru, can be happy. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. After calming down, Kurosawa Hikaru also looked through the car window at the tall buildings not far away, and saw some people walking out of them and driving in the open-air parking lot. Although he could not see the entire Juyi Bank, he had seen photos of the exterior of this building many times online. Because before he was admitted to Dongda University, in order to motivate himself, he checked the best bank in Neon online more than once. This bank was once one of his aspirations and aspirations. If I hadn't met Xiaoyuki and the system suddenly came out, I would have become a banker like them after graduation, right? Without being able to see the full view of the building, Kurosawa Hikaru looked through the car window and saw the bank clerk outside, and he was suddenly moved by the scene. The turning point in his life was the video call with Xiaoyuki. He was certain that he would never forget the words Xiaoyuki said when he greeted her for the first time in his life. Hello, I am Yuki Ichinos. From today on, I am your girlfriend. Please give me your advice. Perhaps the group of hot girls is not within his criteria for choosing a mate at all. But Xiaoyuki's beautiful face cannot be concealed by hot girl makeup, and her stupid behavior of going online to buy a boyfriend in order not to reveal her secrets in front of her friends, and unilaterally announcing that she is his girlfriend. These various performances made his heart move at that time. Coming. After watching it for a while, Igarashi Runa, who was also looking outside, spoke up and reminded him. I know. Kurosawa Hikaru, who had been looking outside, smiled when he heard this. At the door of the bank, a beautiful and cold figure was walking out. She has blue hair as thick as a waterfall and a delicate face like an immortal. She is wearing a beige shirt, a tight black skirt, and high heels. She has a graceful figure, tall and slender. As she appeared, everyone around them turned to look at her. There were 2 men behind her, but after they kept up and said a word, they stopped following. Obviously, they were all clearly rejected. Soon, Ninomiya Chizuru came to the car and opened the passenger door directly. Good evening. Igarashi Runa said hello to her. Let's go. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded slightly and began to pull the seat belt. Good evening. At the same time, Kurosawa Hikaru, who was sitting in the back seat, also spoke. Why are you here? Ninomiya Chizuru, who was pulling up her seat belt, couldn't help but be stunned and turned around in surprise. Am I weird here? Kurosawa Hikaru met her unexpectedly happy gaze and smiled. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 394. There is a kind of surprise, which is meeting someone you like under unexpected circumstances. It's like a coloring agent appears in the boring daily life. Maybe it was because we knew we would definitely meet, but the feeling in advance was different after all. After seeing his face clearly, Ninomiya Chizuru came to the back seat. Her figure is so good, and her long legs are so eye-catching. Sister Chizuru is very popular. Kurosawa's eyes followed her, and when she sat down, he sighed. It's far worse than you. Ninomiya Chizuru was stunned when she heard this, and looked up at him with her beautiful sky blue eyes, her lips parted slightly, and she smiled gracefully. This little man, surrounded by so many beauties, had a lot of things that made her jealous. She didn't expect that there would be a day when he would be jealous of her. There are many ways for couples to feel each other's love, one of them is to see if the other person is jealous of them. Cough. These words made Kurosawa Hikaru choke for a moment and unable to refute. Runa, let's drive first. Ninomiya Chizuru glanced at him and reminded him instead of continuing the topic. Good. Igarashi Runa nodded slightly and immediately started the car. Didn't I tell you not to come? Why are you still here? As the car started to set off, Ninomiya Chizuru glanced out the window, then looked back at Kurosawa Hikari. Isn't this because I want to see Sister Kinhi earlier? Kurosawa Hikaru looked into her beautiful blue eyes and immediately reached out his hand to hold her crotch. When someone suddenly held her hand, Ninomiya Chizuru subconsciously wanted to break away, but thinking that it was him, she restrained this instinct. Faced with her indulgence, Kurosawa Hikaru followed the trend, holding her hand and turning it around, with the back of his hand lying on her thigh. When you are with your girlfriend, if you are honest and serious about your duties, you will be a fool. Aren't you worried about being discovered that I'm with you, reminding you of 0 hour? Sensing his taking advantage, Ninomiya Chizuru rolled her eyes at him, lightly patted the back of his hand in protest, and then asked. If you're afraid of falling in love, it won't be fun. A man's IQ usually drops a notch when he is beautiful. The back of Kurosawa's hand felt her soft, smooth, and elastic thighs. He did not take this hidden danger seriously and sat closer to her. I have to say that having a girlfriend like Sister Kinhi is really satisfying. She is fair-skinned, beautiful, and long-legged, has a proud and cool temperament, is mature, intellectual and extremely beautiful. He just saw that there were 2 men who wanted to pursue Sister Kinhi, but the beauty that no one else could pursue was already his. This sense of difference made him enjoy it very much. It's like taking a super beautiful girlfriend to the street, and other men look at her with envy, jealousy, and admiration. The feeling of pleasure is self-evident. That's true. Ninomiya Chizuru said no more. Although it is said that taking actions with the consequences in mind is the calm and smart behavior. But no matter what you do, if you only look forward and backward, then there will be many things that you cannot do in this world. What's for dinner tonight? At this moment, Igarashi Runa found an opening and interjected. As a driver, she must have a destination or a direction, otherwise she won't know where to go. It's okay, you decide. Ninomiya Chizuru is not very particular about what she eats. After all, she usually relies on fast food to satisfy her needs. Kurosawa. Igarashi Runa found that she had put the question back and could only place her hope on another person. When people live in this world, they are often troubled by one question, that is, what to eat today. Compared with men, women are more likely to suffer from difficulty in choosing, and facing this problem is even more troublesome. Let's go to the supermarket to buy ingredients. I'll cook tonight and we'll eat at the office. Kurosawa Hikaru was not particular about his diet and could eat anything. But after feeling her request for help and thinking about it, he made a decision. If he remembered correctly, the office had a kitchen and supporting facilities. Are you going to cook it yourself? Although she hoped that he would make the decision, Igarashi Runa was a little stunned when she heard this. Yes. Why don't we eat outside? It's lunchtime at this time. If you eat out, there will be queues at delicious restaurants. Wouldn't it be better for us to buy the ingredients and cook them back? Kurosawa Hikaru didn't understand why she was stopping this and expressed his opinion. The population density of Neon is very high, especially in a big city like Tokyo. Even if it's not Tokyo, in other cities, lunch is okay, but for dinner, all kinds of delicious shops are usually full and you need to queue up. What's more, today is still Saturday, and he can even foresee the long queue. There will be a performance in a few days. If you accidentally hurt your hand while cooking, you will be in trouble. Igarashi Runa naturally knew how busy the restaurants outside were at this time, but she was still worried. Don't worry, I will pay attention. Kurosawa Hikaru is not worried about this hidden danger at all. You know, his cooking skills are too strong. As long as he is not distracted by something while cooking, there is absolutely no chance of injury. Don't be afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of what happens. Seeing that he didn't take him seriously, Igarashi Runa patiently tried to persuade him. Runa, you care so much about Kurosawa. Did something happen? At this moment, Ninomiya Chizuru looked at the conversation between the two people and suddenly asked. Not sure if it was her imagination, but she realized that Runa cared about Kurosawa. Could it be that something happened between the two of them during these days? Nothing happened. It's just that next Wednesday will be 0 Hour's first official performance. It is crucial to the development of the firm and to Kurosawa, and there is no room for error. The sudden question made Igarashi Runa feel guilty and offended. And I received a phone call in the past few days. Someone called to ask Master 0 Hour if he wanted to insure his hands. He also explained that many well-known musical instrument performers in the world would insure their hands. This incident made me suddenly come to think of it, Kurosawa's hands are priceless. To be on the safe side, Igarashi Runa added. When people lie, they pay attention to 70% truth and 30% falsehood to be more convincing. This thing is true. That's why she stopped Kurosawa when she heard that he was going to cook it himself. It wasn't because of the 2 kisses that night at all. So that's it? Although she was sitting in the back seat and couldn't see the front, Ninomiya Chizuru had been friends with her for so many years and knew very well what it means to be guilty and lying. She glanced at Kuro beside her calmly. Z nodded with understanding. This little man is so efficient in his actions. While thinking, because the topic in hand was mentioned, Ninomiya Chizuru subconsciously lowered her head and glanced at Kurosawa's hand on her thigh. His palms are wide but not bloated, the size is just right, the 5 fingers are arranged beautifully, the knuckles are slightly curved and neat, the clean and tidy nails are well trimmed, and the texture of his skin is fair but not delicate. She had never noticed these things before. It was when Kurosawa posted his first video as 0 Hour, and saw many girls praising his hands in the comment area of YouTube and official Twitter. Be aware of something. Human thinking has blind spots, because there are too many trivial things in life, and people usually don't notice every detail. But once people realize something, such as a thing that is given a special meaning, they will pay special attention to it and even think divergently. Just like now, because she knew that Kurosawa's hands were beautiful, and now she paid attention to them again, the more she looked at them, the more beautiful they became. What's more, she reacted belatedly and found that she was holding hands with Kurosawa, and her heartbeat accelerated a little. Now what? Kurosawa Hikaru asked without noticing her gaze. Runa, don't you know how to cook? Don't you want to do it today? At the same time, Ninomiya Chizuru tied her hair with her hands and asked. It's not that I don't want to do it, then let's go back to the office to eat. Go to the supermarket to buy ingredients first. Igarashi Runa was stunned when he heard this, and suddenly realized. You didn't think of this just now, did you? Upon seeing her reaction, Ninomiya Chizuru was shocked. I just think about him not being able to cook. Igarashi Runa was a little embarrassed. She suddenly realized that she was too careless, whether it was Kurosawa's inability to pick up Chizuru or this matter. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, the lights of the 0 Hour office came on. Igarashi Runa carried large and small bags of ingredients and went to the kitchen on the first floor to put them down. In response to this action, Kurosawa Hikaru and Ninomiya Chizuru also walked in. "What are you guys doing here? Go to the third floor to rest first. I'll send you a message later when I'm ready. I want to help. If you're afraid of me getting hurt, you can chop the vegetables and I'll cook them. This kitchen is so small. If you help me, I won't be able to use my hands and feet. Isn't this pretty big?" Kurosawa Hikaru looked around at the environment. "I think it's very small, and this is the first time I'm using this kitchen. I have to clean things first. It should take more than an hour to finish dinner." Igarashi Runa realized that he wanted to help, so she rolled her eyes at him and said again, "So hard." Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly felt a little regretful. Why did he propose to eat at the office? Isn't it convenient to eat outside? It's not hard, it only takes more than an hour. You go ahead. Igarashi Runa didn't want to complain. Finding that he was not enlightened, she walked forward and pushed his back shoulder with her hand. When the time came, she pinched him gently. "Sister Kinhee, let's go upstairs first." Discovering such a small move, Kurosawa Hikaru reacted. Obviously, even if he could help, the fundamental reason why Miss Runa didn't want him to help was to create opportunities for him and Chizuru to be alone. Good. Naturally, Ninomiya Chizuru could understand Runa's little thoughts, and turned around and walked out of the kitchen. After that, the two of them walked out of the kitchen together, walked up the stairs one after another, and headed towards the third floor. As he walked up the stairs, Kurosawa's footsteps felt a little awkward. He had been with Xiaoyuki since 8 o'clock yesterday morning, and they separated only at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Facing Yuki Ichinos, a master of martial arts, even if his physical fitness has been strengthened by various skills, he still can't bear it. After a while, they pushed open the door to the lounge. Sitting down in front of the sofa, Kurosawa immediately relaxed. "Drink some water." Although Ninomiya Chizuru hadn't been to the office for a while, the layout here had basically remained unchanged. She took the cup on the table and went to the water dispenser to get 2 glasses of water. "Thanks." Kurosawa Hikaru took the cup she handed him and took a sip. "How is your relationship with Runa now?" Ninomiya Chizuru also drank water. After moistening her lips and throat, she sat next to Kurosawa Hikaru and looked at him slightly. "It's hard to get a chance to be alone together. Do you want to talk about this?" Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru paused and looked at her sideways. A chat must have a beginning. Ninomiya Kinhee raised the corner of her mouth lightly and pulled up her hair with her hands, looking very elegant and cool. Faced with this topic, Kurosawa Hikaru really didn't know how to answer the question. "Have you held her hand?" Finding that he couldn't answer, Ninomiya Chizuru turned her beautiful eyes around and changed her question. "No." Targeted multiple-choice questions would be easier to answer. Kurosawa thought carefully and shook his head. "Then have you hugged her?" If the princess hug on the amusement park trampoline counts, it's the hug. "Isn't there any progress between you and Runa?" Ninomiya Chizuru was a little surprised. She originally thought something happened between Kurosawa and Runa, but it turned out not to be the case. Kurosawa Hikaru shrugged and did not answer. In terms of progress, there must be progress between him and Miss Runa. However, reporting this situation to his girlfriend gave him a strange feeling. Seeing this response, Ninomiya Chizuru frowned slightly. "Compared with my affairs with others, shouldn't the issue you should be thinking about more be the progress of our relationship?" Before she could continue to speak, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly reached out and hugged her. "What's the use of thinking about it alone? It's up to him to think about it too." Leaning on his shoulder, Ninomiya Chizuru moved slightly, adjusted to a more comfortable position, and looked up at him with resentment in her eyes. As soon as these words came out, the dissatisfaction and jealousy in her heart poured out like a dam collapsing. Of course I want to, too. Facing her resentful gaze, Kurosawa said immediately. The contrast between Yuji's complaints and jealousy was so strong that he had the urge to pluck the stars from the sky in order to make Kins happy. Then why don't you come to me? You send messages on your phone every day, and the messages are sent so late every time. Ninomiya Chizuru didn't believe his lies and gave him a fierce look. She also wanted to make progress in her relationship with Kurosawa, but the problem was that this guy didn't give her a chance. I want to find you too, but I'm afraid of disturbing you. Realizing that she didn't believe it, Kurosawa Hikaru hugged her gently and spoke softly. When you came to my house and rang the doorbell at 11 o'clock in the evening, why didn't you think that you would disturb me? When Ninomiya Chizuru heard this explanation, she became even more angry. Sister Kinhe, if you want me to find you, just call me. As long as you call me, I will go find you even if it means a knife from the sky. Seeing that she was very angry, Kurosawa Hikaru realized that he had really neglected her this week, so he simply used his trump card. How dare I call you? Faced with his coquettish title, Ninomiya Chizuru calmed down and looked at him resentfully. Why don't you dare? What if you are with them and I call you suddenly and disturb you? Then you can still send messages. Kurosawa Hikaru choked up when he heard this, suddenly feeling frightened, and then forced a smile. Honestly, if Chizuru had called him yesterday, that would have been the end of it. Although Xiaoyuki is sensible and considerate, and he can answer the phone, it is still very difficult to deal with a sudden call during a martial arts competition. I won't send it. Ninomiya Chizuru saw his guilty conscience. Although she had expected it, she still felt jealous and snorted. Sister Kinhe, if you want to see me next time, can you tell me? Hearing her cute and arrogant hum, Kurosawa Hikaru immediately became happy and coaxed her. Can't. Sister Chizuru. No, it just can't be. Ninomiya Chizuru shook her head and refused to agree to this request. Seeing that she refused, an idea suddenly flashed in Kurosawa's mind. I like flowers, but I won't tell you that I want flowers. I don't want you to give me flowers because I want them, but I want to get flowers because you want to give me flowers. This sentence was a monologue he had seen in his previous life, which fully expressed the awkward and reserved psychology of girls. In other words, what Chizuru wants is for him to take the initiative to find her, not for him to go to her at her request. She is different from Xiaoyuki. Her character is more arrogant. Recalling this passage, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly came back to his senses, looked at Chizuru in front of him again, and suddenly understood. Because he was used to Xiaoyuki sending him messages every day, telling him that she missed him, plus he was very busy recently, so he forgot about it without realizing it. As a sister-type girlfriend, Chizuru Ninomiya is not good at acting like a spoiled child. Her personality is cold on the outside but warm on the inside, and her thoughts are mature and reserved. Applying the awkward and reserved psychological style of Hana, Chizuru should have thought about doing more things with him, such as meeting, holding hands, or anything else, but she would not say it like Yuki did, but wait for him. Divergent thinking, Chizuru just deliberately mentioned the progress of his relationship with Miss Runa. Maybe it was to remind him indirectly that there should be progress between us. Sister Chizuru. Aware of her awkward temper, Kurosawa Hikaru did not feel disgusted, but was happy. No. Chizuru Ninomiya thought he was still asking for the matter just now, but shook his head firmly. Mua. Seeing that she was still being upset, Kurosawa Hikaru directly leaned over and kissed her heavily on the cheek. It's useless even if you kiss me. After being kissed suddenly, Ninomiya Chizuru's pretty face turned red, and then she turned her head away and snorted. Perhaps she said it was useless, but the corners of her mouth still curved a little, and ripples of joy appeared in her heart. Kissing the face is useless. Although they were not face to face, Kurosawa Mitsuru saw her red ears, and he was playful and said with a headache. The next moment, he leaned forward again, opened his mouth, and took her ears in his mouth. "Well, what are you doing?" Ninomiya Chizuru was unprepared, and her ears suddenly felt a burst of wet heat, accompanied by a numb and comfortable feeling. She snorted subconsciously, and then found out what he was doing, and felt embarrassed. Is he crazy? Why is he sucking her ears? Kurosawa, stop it. Although it was a protest, her cold voice became soft and trembling, sexy and charming, and her body became soft. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 395. Biting the ear in the physical sense is actually very comfortable. Because the human ear is one of the most sensitive parts of the senses. Starting from the face and the ear as the breakthrough point, Kurosawa Hikaru's fierce attack broke through Ninomiya Chizuru's defense line. After a long time, it was finally over. Ninomiya Chizuru's body was soft, her pretty face as white as snow, her face was shy like peach blossoms, and she was sweating a little, and her hair was stuck to her cheeks. After all, in this hot summer, the air conditioner had just been turned on, and the room was still quite stuffy, plus a violent struggle. You are molesting and being a hooligan. After a while, Ninomiya Chizuru raised her eyes and glared at him, very angry. She really didn't expect that Kurosawa had such an indecent side, so perverted. Doing this kind of thing between lovers is not considered molesting, just like fighting between lovers is not considered domestic violence. Seeing that her cold side completely collapsed, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't care about the accusation, but smiled at her. Chizuru's personality is more introverted and reserved. If you want to communicate with her, you must take the initiative. How can it not count? Fighting is fighting. Chizuru Ninomiya disagreed with this example. Is it considered domestic violence to make people feel comfortable? Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she didn't understand and guided her. Comfortable. Chizuru Ninomiya was stunned for a moment. Can fighting be comfortable? I mean fighting on the bed. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and added. Not serious. Chizuru Ninomiya understood this time and no longer leaned on him to sit and spit. Although she felt quite comfortable just now, she still felt that the behavior just now was very perverted. She didn't know how to evaluate the behavior of licking ears, it always felt more intimate than kissing, but it was too much to be ashamed. Are you angry? Kurosawa Hikaru was not very surprised to see that she felt very ashamed, and reached out to embrace her. But before he hugged her again, Chizuru Ninomiya was as slippery as a snake, moved her butt and pulled away. Seeing this, Kurosawa Hikaru also chased after her. However, Chizuru Ninomiya pulled away again and didn't let him hug her. Kurosawa, don't do this in the future. Chizuru Ninomiya smoothed her messy hair with her hand and asked. Why? Kurosawa Hikaru found that her tone was very serious, not like tsundere, and was a little surprised. Because it's perverted. Is it perverted? Isn't it perverted? Doing that to the ear. When talking about this, Chizuru Ninomiya was very ashamed, and she couldn't say the word lick. Seeing her pretty face blushing and shy, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly fell silent. Maybe it was because of his rich practical experience, or maybe it was because he knew that he had more perverted behavior. He felt that licking the ear was normal and was a higher level of interest than a simple kiss. Could it be that Chizuru is more pure and serious than he imagined? Recalling that Chizuru wanted to hold his hand, she was sneaky and extremely shy. Although they are both queens, Chizuru and Runa seem to have completely different personalities. Chizuru, have you ever seen an adult movie? Suddenly realizing this possibility, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help asking. How could I possibly watch that kind of thing? Ninomiya Chizuru heard this and naturally understood what he was referring to, and rolled her eyes at him. The industry in this area of Japan is very mature. Although it is not on the table, it exists in life. Have you ever seen a pornographic book? No, why are you asking this? After such a while, Ninomiya Chizuru has completely sorted out her state, her hair is no longer messy, and she has returned to her elegant and cold state in the past. As she calmed down, she began to think about what Kurosawa Hikaru was thinking behind asking this question rather than the question itself. Do you know about foot control? Kurosawa Hikaru did not answer and continued to ask. I know. Maybe she hadn't heard of it before, but Chizuru Ninomiya knows it now. Runa said it was normal and not something to be surprised about. To like something very much means to control. She thinks she is a hand control because she thinks Kurosawa's hands are particularly beautiful. Do you think it's perverted? No, Runa said it's normal. You can't compare this with the behavior just now. I like your feet. I know. Chizuru Ninomiya was a little shy when she heard this confession, but she also felt honored and couldn't help but look down at her feet. Because she was in the office, not at home, she was still wearing 5 centimeters high heels and didn't change them off. Although so, her high heels and insteps were very beautiful. When they went to the stream together before, Kurosawa's eyes always flew to her feet, and she knew it. Then do you know what I want to do to your feet? Kurosawa Hikaru had something he wanted to prove the answer to, so he simply suppressed his shame and asked with courage. In fact, even between lovers, confessing XP is quite embarrassing. Generally speaking, it is more appropriate for couples to express their little habits in the process of getting along rather than speaking them out loud. What? Ninomiya Chizuru was a little curious. Sit over here and I'll tell you. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was quite curious and waved. Then I'll sit over and you can't do what you just did. If you still do that, I'll be angry. After Ninomiya Chizuru hesitated about this request, she agreed in advance. Whether Kurosawa kissed her, or held her, she was happy, but like he did just now, she was really ashamed. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't want to bite her ear again, but there were some words that were not suitable to be said out loud. With his consent, Ninomiya Chizuru was no longer angry about what just happened and sat next to him again. When she got closer, Kurosawa Hikaru leaned down to her ear and whispered softly. As the words rang in her ears and rushed straight into her heart and mind, Ninomiya Chizuru's beautiful eyes suddenly widened, her little face immediately turned red, and she looked at Kurosawa in front of her in disbelief. Realizing the true meaning of foot control, she had an impulse to run to the kitchen and ask Runa if this was normal. Do you really don't understand? Facing her unbelievable look, Kurosawa Hikaru had already verified the answer, and his mood was a little subtle for a moment. Chizuru knows nothing about men and women. Should I say this is a good thing or a bad thing? Although he knew that Kinzuru was single since birth and had never been in love, he had no idea about this kind of thing and it was still unexpected. Perhaps it was because she didn't understand that when she took off her stockings by the creek, it was simply because the stones by the river were cold and smooth, and the action of clenching her toes was so stunning and distraught. The amorous feelings at that moment left a deep impression on him, and they are still fresh in his memory. Ninomiya Chizuru wanted to respond, but her face became hot. She felt as if the door to a new world had been opened. Sister do you know how children are born? At this moment, Kurosawa Hikaru thought of a possibility and asked again. He had thought before that the relationship and affection between Chizuru and Miss Runa was so good, they might have the opportunity to embrace each other and bring happiness to each other. But now it seems that this may not be the case. Then I must know. How could I not know that this kind of common sense is covered in the textbooks of health, physical education, and biology classes? Upon hearing this question, Ninomiya Chizuru, who was still shy at first, realized the potential meaning of his words and immediately became anxious. She really doesn't know what foot control is. This is because she has been strictly controlled in both study and social life under her parents' almost perverted desire to control since she was a child. Before graduating from college, she read and studied every day. In order to prepare for the teacher qualification examination, she basically had no time to go out and play, let alone surf the internet. After passing the qualification certificate, she started to work. Because it was difficult for a female college teacher to be a teacher, and she was still young and had no qualifications, she could only put in more effort and time. That's good. Hearing this answer, Kurosawa Hikaru was immediately relieved. If you don't even know this, things will be difficult to handle. Ninomiya Chizuru realized that he was really afraid that she didn't understand just now, so she looked at him speechlessly. If she didn't even understand this, how could she have been angry when she heard that little girl Ichino's Yuki said that she went to check out a room with Kurosawa on the first day they met, and even checked in multiple times. You licked your ears so skillfully just now. Are you very experienced? As this thought flashed across her mind, Ninomiya Chizuru suddenly became a little jealous. Because of the whispered words just now, her shame threshold was directly raised by several levels. Could it be that what Kurosawa did to her has already been done to others? No, I've only done this to you. In response to this sudden question, Kurosawa shook his head. Maybe he has already crossed the ladder of adulthood, but Xiao Yuki doesn't have such arrogant behavior as Chizuru. Real. Ninomiya Chizuru realized that he had only done it to herself, and suddenly felt a feeling of excitement inside. Real. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded, sure of this. He and Xiao Yuki have never done this. As for Mirai, they moved their hands dishonestly when kissing. As for other contacts, Mirai is always accompanied by the humanoid monitor Misayaka, which limits his performance. Why did you do that to my ears just now? After being confirmed, Ninomiya Chizuru suddenly felt less disgusted. You just turned your head so that your ears were facing me. It looked so good looking that I couldn't help but bite it. Speaking of this, Kurosawa Hikaru did not answer honestly. In fact, he discovered Kinzuru's very reserved character, and that's why he acted so outrageously. Don't you feel dirty? After hearing this compliment, Ninomiya Chizuru didn't know if her ears were pretty, but couldn't help but ask. Even though she takes a long bath and washes them clean every day, her ears are still too big for her and they always feel weird. Sisterkin, he has a strange body fragrance from head to toe. How can she be dirty? In response to this question, Kurosawa Hikaru stretched out his hand to hug her, took a deep breath between her snow-white and slender jade neck and hair, and smiled. There's no body fragrance, what you smell is shampoo. Ninomiya Chizuru was held by him without struggling. Her heart was sweet and happy, but she said something on her lips. People have scents on their bodies, usually the scent of laundry detergent and shampoo unless they wear perfume. As for shower gel, unless it is a long-lasting fragrance or you have just come out of the bath, the fragrance will dissipate quickly. It's just body fragrance. Kurosawa Hikaru saw the smile on her lips and smiled. I have to say that Sisterkin, he has a cute personality and gets into trouble easily. In fact, she quite likes to act coquettishly. She needs to be coaxed, but it is not difficult to coax her. In fact, making your girlfriend happy is one of the great joys of falling in love. Of course, if your girlfriend is too pretentious, that's another matter. After biting her ears and fooling around for a while, Ninomiya Chizuru's resentment about being left out this week dissipated a lot. Kurosawa. Letting him hug her, Ninomiya Chizuru leaned into his arms and said again. What's wrong? Don't you have any ideas about Runa? Do you want to talk about other people again? It's hard for us to have a chance to be alone together. Kurosawa Hikaru had a bit of a headache about this issue. Ms. Runa is a rare short-haired beauty, and she is also a big beauty. She wears fashionable clothes, has a considerate, gentle, and capable personality, but it is impossible for a man not to feel it. But you obviously promised me, but you have made no progress with Runa for so many days, and you even met the client together on Wednesday. Seeing his evasive reaction, Ninomiya Chizuru couldn't hold back anymore and became a little anxious. Do you really want me to catch Miss Runa? Sensing her anxiety, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. He found that Kin's character was quite stubborn, as if he believed that he must do something, and he was very obsessed. It would be bad if she is chased away by another man if this drags on. Runa has many suitors. If you have thoughts about her, it would be good to make some progress. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded slightly, taking this matter very seriously and feeling worried and uneasy. She really wants to be best friends with Runa for life and never be separated. Actually, my relationship with her has made progress. Kurosawa noticed her worry, hesitated for a while, and then said, "Didn't you say no?" Ninomiya Chizuru was stunned when he heard this and raised his head to look at him. "I just said that I didn't hold hands with her or hug her. When you asked me and there was no progress at all, I didn't say anything." "Then what did you do with her?" Ninomiya Chizuru realized that they really had a situation, and couldn't help but feel curious and couldn't help but ask. "After finishing the day's work on Wednesday, we went to an izakaya for a drink, and then I carried her on my back and sent her home." "Then what?" "She kissed me on the face." "Did you kiss?" Hearing this, Ninomiya Chizuru's eyes lit up. No wonder Runa's reaction was so guilty when she tested it in the car just now. There was indeed something going on. Seeing her reaction, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't know how to react, so he just nodded. "What happened at that time? Why did she kiss you? Did she do anything else?" Ninomiya Chizuru felt relieved and happy, followed by questions and curiosity. "Anyway, we have made progress. You don't have to worry about her being chased away by others." Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and simply said without going into details about the situation at that time. "Kurosawa, tell me what happened at that time." Finding that he refused to speak, Ninomiya Chizuru was very anxious. She grabbed his arm and shook him. Her voice was very soft and sweet. "She won't let me tell you, go and ask her." Although her ego was very lethal, Kurosawa Hikaru felt that something would happen if she continued. Anyway, they are good best friends, their relationship is so good, they can talk about anything freely, so let them communicate on their own about this kind of thing. Also, Ninomiya Chizuru noticed that he refused to say anything, and realized that a lot of things might have happened that night. After thinking about it, she nodded. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 396. The information on the internet is massive and huge. It is no exaggeration to say that information and data are circulating around the world at every moment. However, when some special events occur, major social platforms on the internet will become more lively. The Creator 0 Hour you subscribe to will start broadcasting in 10 minutes, and the comment function is open. YouTube has a premiere function, where creators can pre-download the video, notify subscribers to watch it together, and start preheating discussions in the comment area below the video. Such a notification appears on the follower's mobile phone. 10 minutes left. After receiving such information, Shiana sent a message in the group chat. "Sato, it's such a long 5 hours, I usually play outside, but I've never felt that 5 hours is so long. Aoi, when you have class, doesn't it last for 5 hours? Sato, I slept during class. Yamamoto, why has Kurosawa been silent all day? Doesn't he pay attention to 0 Hour? Yuki, brother Guang has to work today. Hinata, even if we have to work, it's almost early morning. Hitomi, you say you're at work, but no matter how busy you are, you won't miss sending a single message. Is it possible that you're dating a woman? The group chat was very lively. Originally, the atmosphere was very cheerful due to the exchange of words between you and me, but as soon as this message came out, it directly killed the atmosphere. Aoi, Hitomi, if you can't speak, you can stay silent and take a look at the atmosphere. The next moment, Aoi, as the eldest sister of the hot girl group, immediately spoke up. Although they play well with each other and can make all kinds of jokes, there is still a bottom line. Neon people attach great importance to the sense of boundaries in their social interactions. Even if they are very good friends, there are some privacy issues that must not be pried into. Yuki, I was playing at Brother Guang's house just now. He is indeed busy with work. Blue beautiful girl, what's Kurosawa's home like? Aoi, have you found the little book he collected? What genre does he like? Yuki, I've looked for it, but Brother Guang doesn't have a small book at home. He said he never reads that kind of thing. Sato, really? Could it be that he knew you were going to his house and hid him somewhere where you couldn't find him? Hinata, unbelievable. Yamamoto, this guy is really awesome. The group chat was very lively, everyone except Kurosawa Hikaru was present. In 0 Hour Agency, Kurosawa Hikaru had no time to look at his phone and pay attention to the group chat messages. Because it is approaching 0 o'clock, as video creators, they value this video release more than any fans and viewers. 7 minutes left. Ninomiya Chizuru raised her cup and took a sip, then looked at the time. Chizuru, are you so nervous? Igarashi Runa glanced at her and teased. I'm not nervous. There's nothing to be nervous about. Facing her smiling gaze, Ninomiya Chizuru ruffled her hair and said calmly. There was no water in your cup just now, and you are still drinking. Doesn't this count as nervous? Seeing that she still wanted to save face and refused to admit it, Igarashi Runa burst into laughter. Ninomiya Chizuru was stunned when she heard this. She looked down at the cup and found that it was really empty. Give it to me and I'll pour it for you. Igarashi Runa reached out to her and invited her hand. Good. Ninomiya Chizuru handed the cup to her. This sofa is too crowded. I should buy a bigger one. Immediately afterwards, after pouring a glass of water and handing it back to her, Igarashi Runa sat back down and couldn't help but sigh. Is it really crowded? Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru, who was sandwiched between the two people, turned his head slightly and looked at the empty seat next to Ms. Runa where at least one person could sit. This sofa is already very big. Because they use laptops to surf the internet, they can change the position at will and sit on the longest sofa. However, Chizuru and Runa were sitting right next to him, so a lot of empty space was wasted on both sides. Although he knew that they would not sit down even if there was space and insisted on sticking to him, Kurosawa Hikaru was happy to see this. After all, two beauties took the initiative to stick to you, and who wouldn't like the soft fragrance of soft jade? Sisterkin, he is so nervous this time, is it because she wants to release your MV? Kurosawa Hikaru didn't complain about it, but joked about it. When the agency was first established, the three of them were here to witness the upload of the first single Croatian Rhapsody. Ms. Runa was almost nervous to death, but at that time, Chizuru Ninomiya reacted calmly. What do you think? Ninomiya Chizuru, who was already nervous, glared at him with some dissatisfaction when she saw that he knew what he was asking. Unlike Kurosawa's masked image, she appears in the video. Don't worry, haven't you seen the video? Kurosawa Hikaru smiled and comforted. Yes, there is no need to be nervous. Kurosawa photographed you so beautifully and edited it so well. After the video was released, the reaction in the comment section was definitely to praise your beauty. At the same time, Igarashi Runa also echoed. Miss Runa, I've said it before. It's not my photography that's good, it's Chizuru-san who is too beautiful. Where is the beauty? Her temperament is very unique. Any more? Look into her eyes. What happened to her eyes? Very nice. Really? When Ninomiya Chizuru saw the two of them, they were talking to each other as if they were in a two-person relationship, making people unable to speak at all and giving them a blank look. Look at her mouth. What happened to her mouth? So soft, sweet, and moist. Is this a sense of experience? Have you ever kissed it? Of course I kissed you. It's so cool to be able to kiss a super beauty like Kinzuru. Kurosawa, what is it like to kiss Ms. Runa on the mouth? Can you comment? Although they cooperated tacitly, Ninomiya Chizuru was not so easily confused and said suddenly. As soon as these words came out, Kurosawa Hikaru and Igarashi Runa, who were still making fun and complimenting others to adjust the atmosphere, suddenly froze. Kurosawa has never kissed me, how can I comment? Igarashi Runa said haha. Have you really never kissed me? Seeing her nervous reaction, it was obvious that she was trying to conceal her feelings. Ninomiya Chihi lowered her head slightly, her long hair falling like a waterfall, and looked sideways at her. As she expected, Kurosawa said they kissed each other but didn't dare to talk about it later. The two of them definitely had a more intimate interaction, which was embarrassing to mention. Whether it was due to drunkenness or what happened as a result, Kurosawa confidently said that Runa would not be chased away by others, which meant that they had behaved like a couple. Kissing on the face cannot be called the intimate interaction of a couple. After all, in Europe and the United States, there is still the etiquette of kissing on the face to say hello. As for holding hands, although it is an act that makes people's hearts beat faster, it is really just that. In comparison, the level of intimacy in the act of kiss is very high. No. Igarashi Runa shook his head and refused to admit it. It's a pity. I also want to know your mouth and how it feels when kissed. Ninomiya Chizuru's eyes slightly curved, a smile appeared, and she teased. Then do you want to give it a try? Igarashi Runa is not a vegetarian either. Hearing this, he immediately said. This kind of response was unexpected by Ninomiya Chizuru, and she was instantly stunned. The next moment, she turned her eyes and stared at Runa's beautiful and tender lips. May I? Ninomiya Chizuru's cold and calm beautiful eyes gradually became hot, as if she was very moved. When we meet on a narrow road, the brave wins. No matter what happens, we must not be overwhelmed in terms of momentum. Sure. Facing her eager gaze, Igarashi Runa didn't expect that she would say this. She was really shocked, but she still gritted her teeth and held on. Kurosawa Hikaru, who was sandwiched between the two people, saw Tachibana in front of him and remained silent. Okay, then I'll give it a try. Seeing that she really dared to agree, Ninomiya Chizuru rolled up her hair and stuck her head over. Come. Igarashi Runa was not afraid and leaned her head over. Neither of them hesitated in their movements, getting closer and closer in front of Kurosawa Hikaru. 30 centimeters. 20 centimeters. 10 centimeters. 5 centimeters. As they continued to get closer and closer, the two people stopped and could feel each other's breathing. They all stopped and did not get closer. You know, kissing on the face and kissing on the mouth are not the same concepts. No matter how close you are to your friends, it takes courage to let them or them kiss you. Come here. Igarashi Runa didn't dare to move forward and just shouted. Come here. Ninomiya Chizuru didn't dare and counterattacked. The premiere is about to start. How about you guys kiss next time? Kurosawa Hikari suggested when he saw the two people were at a stalemate and entered the mode of the strong-mouthed king. Although the interaction between good sisters, as a boyfriend, you should not interrupt or disturb. But he could feel that these two people were holding on to the limit for the sake of face. In this case, external force must be used to break the deadlock and give them a suitable step to step down. Are we going to start? Let's forget it this time. Finally, when he spoke, Ninomiya Chizuru slowly withdrew her head as if she had received an amnesty, her heart beating very fast. Not all accelerated heartbeats are due to heartbeat, nervousness, fear, excitement, joy, sadness, and even exercise can cause an accelerated heartbeat. It was such a close call. Fortunately, Kurosawa was there, otherwise it would have been difficult. Let's talk about it next time, business is more important. The same thing happened to Igarashi Runa, who quickly retracted his head. Maybe she likes Kinhee very much. No matter how busy she is at work, she will always take time out to find Kinhee, cook her a dinner, eat together, chat and accompany each other. But this kind of love is the love of sisters. After knowing each other for more than 20 years, it would be too scary for them to kiss. Are they all straight women? Seeing this scene, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but think. Even so, he could understand. In fact, although many men like lilies, for girls, lilies are something that they cannot bear to look at. This is just like there are many rotten girls in neon who like to be pretty, but for men, it is something that makes them feel uncomfortable just thinking about it. If they take a look at it, they may even have the urge to wash their eyes. The countdown has begun. As everyone was silent, Igarashi looked up at the laptop screen and said, "In Sapporo, the capital of Hokkaido, there is a music bar with elegant decoration style. 5. There are many people in the bar, more than 100 people, led by Kitajima Shizuka, who are shouting countdown together. Most of these people are fans of Kitajima Shizuka, and there are also fans of Zero Time, because they saw the event initiated by Kitajima Shizuka, a popular Twitter user, and thought that they were close, so they ran over. 4. At this time, there was no music in the bar, and the countdown sound was extremely loud. Except for the bartender, everyone was looking at the super large screen on the wall. On the screen, the countdown was being counted down. This is the countdown function of the premiere of YouTube, and there are several styles. 3. The time visible to the naked eye will attract people's special attention, just like some New Year's Eve activities, but for them, the excitement at this moment is even more eager than the New Year's Eve. Because this bar was reserved tonight, the people present, except for the store, were all fans of Zero Time. 2. 1. When the countdown ended, the screen, which was pitch black with only a white number in the center, finally changed. A man wearing a gentleman's hat, his face covered by a mask, and wearing a tuxedo appeared on the TV screen. "I am 0 Hour. This is a piano piece I wrote, called Adelina by the Water." His voice was low, mature, magnetic, and full of charm. Every word touched the heartstrings. "It's this one." With 0 Hour's introduction, someone shouted excitedly. "This song is so beautiful, the melody is delicate, soft, calm, gentle, and full of twists and turns. The romantic tone is fascinating. Not everyone likes songs with intense melodies. In this impetuous era, such healing and peaceful piano music can soothe people's hearts." "Hush, keep quiet. If you want to discuss, wait until you finish listening to it for the first time." Kitajima Shizuka also likes the song very much. She is very excited, but she is also in charge of the overall situation. As he spoke, Lingshi had already walked to the Steinway piano and sat down. He raised his hands and placed them on the keyboard, and the beautiful and heavenly piano sound suddenly rang out. At the same time, it was no longer limited to playing in front of the piano as before. Above Lingshi, a picture emerged. It was like the picture in Lingshi's mind, or it could be understood as a dream. It was a double-layered performance. The picture was a green forest, and the main perspective was moving forward, passing through the green leaves step by step with the graceful melody of the piano. When the forest was no longer covered, the scene that seemed to be in another world was reflected in the eyes. In front of him was a clear and quiet stream, with gravel distributed naturally, and the primitive and natural scenery was very fresh. Perhaps the natural scenery was beautiful, but a tall and graceful back was standing by the water. Her waterfall-like blue hair was soft and delicate, and her hair fluttered gently with the mountain breeze. She was wearing a long dress, her skin was as white as snow, and her calves under the long dress were smooth, slender, and jade-like. She didn't move, just stood there, but she was so beautiful that it was amazing. If it weren't for her hair and clothes, which would sway gently in the wind, her motionless appearance would be like a statue. Beauty. Many people in the quiet bar held their breath when they saw this scene, their hearts were pulled, and they reached a consensus. Everyone has had the urge to chase a back figure on the street. A graceful back figure is more than 100 times more attractive than the front. Because the mystery of not being able to see the front will arouse curiosity and want to find out. Especially when it is out of reach and you can't see the front, it will make people feel itchy. For fans, everyone knows what Adilina by the water means. Even if you don't understand, if you like something, you will learn more about it. For such a long time, someone has already popularized what kind of story background Adilina by the water was based on. It's her. However, Kitajima Shizuka, as one of the first fans, is even more of a fanatic fan, and her feelings are different. Maybe it was the back, but when she saw the waterfall-like blue hair and the cold and elegant temperament, even though she hadn't seen the front, she was aware of it. The first time the master performed publicly, at the Tokyo Bunkakaikan, what happened that night, even though it had been so long, she still couldn't forget it. That day, when the performance was about to start, an iceberg beauty with an intellectual and mature temperament, noble and elegant, came to the scene and sat in the first row of the audience seats. Kitajima Shizuka didn't know the other party's name, identity, or origin, but she knew how beautiful this blue-haired beauty was. It was a peerless beauty that people couldn't forget after seeing it once. This MV is very calm, not fancy, and there is no gimmick. It just moves forward bit by bit with time, as if telling a story. The man came to the water for the first time and met a beautiful back. He was so amazed that he couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. He always kept a distance and didn't get close, just staring at her infatuatedly. The second time the man came to the water, he met her again. This time he was no longer limited to the distance, but got closer, but not much. But at this distance of a few steps, he saw her breathtakingly beautiful profile, like a flower on a mountain, which could only be admired from afar. The man came to the water's edge for the third time, and she was still there. This time he finally mustered up the courage to walk up. But before he got close, he was noticed. She looked back, and her beautiful and delicate face was fascinating, and her cold sky-blue eyes made people dare not approach. The surprise of looking back was indescribable. She didn't say anything, but her cold and arrogant aura, as well as her cold eyes, seemed to be announcing that she couldn't be approached. The man came to the water's edge for the fourth time, and she was still there. The man mustered up the courage to approach again. Even though he was met with a look back and gaze again, the man still stepped forward step by step and walked in front of her, but was greeted with a shake of his head. The fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth times, the man approached her again and again, and the blue-haired beauty seemed to be moved by his sincerity. Her cold eyes gradually melted, her eyes became gentle, and she began to smile. The ninth time, when the man came to the water, without waiting for him to approach, the blue-haired beauty seemed to be aware of something, turned her head and looked at him, and walked towards him step by step. Adilina by the water, the sound of music is very distant, and the romantic story is very natural. The picture changes with the melody of nature, the feeling of tranquility makes people immersed, and the story of twists and turns is also touching. When the piano sound ended, the quiet bar was very quiet. If it is said that the piano music before 0 o'clock brings people a refreshing feeling, With his exquisite and calm, smooth, and flowing techniques, and pleasant piano sound, it brings people a double enjoyment of vision and hearing. Then this song Adelina by the Water brings people spiritual enjoyment on this premise. Are they together? A girl exclaimed in admiration, very excited. She had always liked Adeline by the Water because the quiet and romantic piano music reminded her of her past love. But now, because of the story told in the MV, her heartstrings were deeply attracted to it, unable to extricate herself, and she longed for and envied such a story. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 397. The so-called MV is a music video, a short film that goes with music. In today's era, MV is an indispensable part of a single. An outstanding MV mainly focuses on 2 points, interpreting the meaning and information that the music wants to express, and showing the singer's style and story. As long as these 2 points can be achieved, it is a qualified MV. If these 2 points can be done very well, it is outstanding. This is a visual, auditory, and even spiritual feast. It may be very short, less than 3 minutes, but under the background of music, it tells a love story. When people finished watching, the audience watching the live broadcast rushed into the comment area of the single video. As for those who watched through special means, such as screen projection and computer, they also picked up their mobile phones. However, not all people like to express their opinions on the internet, and a considerable number of people replay and watch again. Adeline by the Water, a dreamy and perfect masterpiece. Divine song, I would like to regard it as the best divine song of the 21st century. Master of 0 Hour, I love you. You are so handsome. The dual enjoyment of vision and hearing, waiting from 14 o'clock to now, 10 hours of waiting, it is worth it. Is there any netizen who can tell me who is the female lead of the MV? She is so beautiful. Adeline's figure and appearance perfectly meet my imagination. Although Croatian Rhapsody and Flight of the Bumblebee gave me a very amazing and shocking feeling, they are like a popcorn movie that can only let me enjoy it for a while. For me, Adeline by the Water is better. It is a piano piece worth loving for a lifetime. Master of 0 Hour, I'm sorry. When I heard that the single this time was Adeline by the Water Delina, I was actually disappointed, because I had listened to it many times before, and I didn't expect this MV to be so amazing. I want to learn piano. Are there any piano training classes recommended in Kyoto? It's so beautiful. I won't say more, I'll listen to it a few more times. I was stunned just now. Oh my God, how can there be such a beautiful piano piece? The last smile back is so amazing. Mom, I'm in love. Women are still better. I decided to be a straight man from today. Does anyone know the name of the female lead? Can someone tell me what the relationship between Master 0 Hour and Adelina is in real life? The comment area is very sensational. Maybe this piano piece is very short, but the enjoyment and experience it brings to people is even more addictive than the rhythmic music such as Flight of the Bumblebee. Nothing else, just because Adelina by the Water tells a love story, which makes people yearn, envy and look forward to it. No matter what kind of thing it is, even a branch or a leaf, when it is given more meaning, its value is no longer limited to the original. If a vivid work of art is accompanied by a romantic and beautiful story, it will be even more fascinating. Love is always a feeling that makes people dream. The comment area is very hot. After the video ends, just refresh the page and you will see a lot of new comments. 860,000 real-time viewers. Chizuru, Kurosawa, we succeeded again. At the 0 Hour agency, Igarashi Runa held Kurosawa's arm with one hand and shook it wildly, holding the mouse with the other hand. The joy and excitement were hard to contain. Look at the comment area. Ninomiya Chizuru was also in a good mood. After watching the MV again with all the audience, she could say with confidence that the viewing experience this time was invincible. However, compared with the data, she was more curious about what the audience said about the MV she starred in. Only 860,000. Holding his arms in her arms, Kurosawa Mitsuru glanced down, and then looked at the laptop. Only 860,000. Are you not satisfied with this? Igarashi Runa was shocked by their reactions, especially Kurosawa's, and said immediately, 860,000, even if you look at the music scene around the world, or even history, it is a terrifying number. Her most impressive artist before, Fujiwara Rika, even after many years of debut, never reached such a height in her heyday. Didn't you say that the highest record of real-time viewers of the first broadcast on YouTube was 1.54 million? This is only half of them. Kurosawa Mitsuru raised his eyes and nodded slightly, affirming. It's not that he is overly arrogant and picky, but he knows very well how terrifying his master-level piano techniques and skills are. In addition, the piano piece Adeline at the Waterside is a world-famous piece that won the Golden Piano Award in the previous life. It is a phenomenal work that caused a sensation once it was played. The piano genius spent his whole life playing the piano at the master level, plus the classic piano piece Adeline at the Waterside, and the work he shot with master-level photography, starring super beauties like Ninomiya Chizuru, and completed with the entry-level computer video editing. He knows the value of this MV better than anyone else in the world, and he really can't be satisfied with just such data. It may not be able to match the highest record, but the real-time audience of 860,000 can make it into YouTube's single premiere history ranking list. Others had been debuting for several years when they got this record. They are a phenomenal national idol group. It is the combination of the right time, the right place, the right people, and all the factors that have led to such a strongest record. And real-time audience size is better than the number of fans and fan stickiness. How long have you been out since your debut? In less than 2 months, you haven't released an album, only 3 singles, and you haven't even done any big promotion. There was only one public performance of less than half an hour. Igarashi Runa saw that he was not excited at all and had such high demands, so she persuaded him. In fact, 0 hour is now a hot mess. Perhaps the number of plays on the first day of the first single Croatian Rhapsody is not exaggerated. However, after the first public performance, the second single Flight of the Bumblebee received a terrifying number of plays on the first day and ranked on the Twitter trending list, which directly brought a big earthquake to Neon's entertainment industry. As for this time, the typhoon has just brought the first light wind. In the next 24 hours, even the next week, or even a month, the horror of the natural disaster will be revealed. That's true. With her reminder, Kurosawa Hikaru reacted and was immediately relieved. Although he can pat his chest and say that this song Adelina by the Waterside, whether it is reputation, melody, honor, value, or power, is definitely better than the singles created by South Korea's national groups. How many times? It's just that his background is too shallow after all. It's really worth being happy to be able to achieve what he has achieved in such a short time since his debut. Different from the archery competition, you can directly compete with strength and technology to intuitively determine the level. The value of music varies from person to person. It is a concept that can be seen but cannot be touched. This song is a hit, be happy. Seeing his relief, Igarashi Runa patted his arm. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Perhaps the real-time audience data is indeed not the strongest, but he can be sure that this piano music will soon be heard all over the country, and even around the world, and will last forever and become a world classic. Kurosawa, you have to know that the requirements of the market are very strict. Many singers' last song was popular all over the country, but the next song may not be liked. This is true for singers, this is true for directors, and this is true for writers. Because of this, in this way, when you achieve something, don't pursue it beyond your reach, but enjoy the moment with contentment so that you can surpass yourself. In order to prevent him from having such a psychological gap in the future, Igarashi Runa also reminded him when he saw his smile. Many singers, actors, young directors, and writers will be in a similar situation, that is, they have excessive expectations for their works, thus ignoring the present, and completely unaware that the achievements they have achieved are already good facts. I understand, you just said this song is popular. How popular will it be? Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, and then asked. Speaking of how popular she was, Igarashi Runa's spirit was extremely high. She gave him a detailed explanation of why she wanted him to feel her joy. 860,000 real-time viewers, which means that in the first round of broadcasts, there were 860,000 views. Think about it, when you first released Croatian Rhapsody, it only had 430,000 views in 6 hours. If you compare it, you will know how exaggerated it is. Also, the number of views on the first day this time may be higher than that of Flight of the Bumblebee. Wait until you wake up tomorrow morning. In addition, I already know why the number of views of Flying Ball of the Bumblebee increased so much overnight. This is because on the other side of the ocean, there are viewers with regional time differences who are watching videos on YouTube. It's not that she's making a fuss, but that she has been a practitioner for many years and knows very well the benefits that these data can bring. How much money can this single make? Kurosawa asked again. Although it is a good thing to receive recognition and praise from fans when releasing a single, realistically speaking, his purpose is still to make money and profit. I can't estimate it, counting the number of plays on YouTube alone. If this single can exceed 100 million, it will cost about 40 million yen before tax. Igarashi Runa couldn't tell a result about this, so she could only speak from what she knew. You know, the commercial value of a song is difficult to measure and depends on marketing and luck. In fact, although the firm has not yet launched a formal business activity, it uploaded the video to YouTube for promotion, and the business capital has almost been repaid. After all, Croatian Rhapsody and Flight of the Bumblebee have exaggerated playback numbers. I still have to trouble you about making money. Kurosawa Hikaru sighed after hearing this. Professional matters should still be left to professionals. Although he has a proficient piano and masters world-famous songs from his previous life, how to maximize the value of the songs is a problem. In the final analysis, what he has to do is not only the piano, but also archery and study, and he also has several girlfriends, so there is no way he can devote himself to the piano. What's the trouble? Everyone does his job. Igarashi Runa waved her hand. She was very happy to do this kind of work. She didn't work for Kurosawa in vain. Chizuru, how about the comment section? After exchanging their thoughts, Igarashi Runa asked curiously when she saw that Chizuru had not interrupted and was already playing on the computer with a mouse. There were a lot of compliments, and a few comments said it was not as good as Flight of the Bumblebee and Croatian Rhapsody, and there was a quarrel in the comment area. Chizuru Ninomiya, who was bending over to play with the computer, looked back with a slight smile on her face. She was clearly pleased with the response in the comments section. Don't worry about that kind of criticism. There are always people who will find fault. As long as it's widely praised, how do you praise it? Igarashi Runa, who had long been accustomed to this situation, just asked. Basically, everyone thinks this piano music is very nice. Although Ninomiya Chizuru saw a lot of compliments, it was difficult for her to repeat them all. After all, everyone has different points of praise, but there is still one thing in common, and that is love. Does it only sound nice? No comments praising you for being beautiful. Seeing her bent over and her beautiful figure with an amazing waist-to-hip ratio, Kurosawa realized that the release of the new single was a huge success, and he put his arms around her waist with some pride. A person's self-confidence comes from many aspects. The best way to achieve self-confidence is to succeed. What do you think? Ninomiya Chizuru didn't stop him from holding his waist, but just rolled her eyes at him. Judging from your reaction, everyone should be praising you for your beauty. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but feel happy when he noticed that her eye roll seemed to say, "Are you asking questions knowingly?" Should he say it or not, he did ask knowingly. Chizuru's appearance, figure, and temperament are all impeccable. Coupled with his masterful makeup, it's hard not to look beautiful. As long as it's unanimously positive. Igarashi Runa couldn't help but take another look at Kurosawa Hikaru holding Chizuru's small and thin waist, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Although she was happy about the real-time audience count, she knew very well, fan feedback is more important. After all, real-time audience count, this indicator, just shows the number and stickiness of fans. Whether a song is good enough depends on various aspects. Someone recognized me and knew that I used to be a teacher at Dongda University. Ninomiya Chizuru felt relieved as she was scrolling through the comments section and added, "How was the discussion?" Igarashi Runa was not surprised by this and said curiously, "It was immediately praised." Ninomiya Chizuru held the mouse and slid the scroll wheel to the top, and then changed the arrangement of the comment area. "Let me see." Kurosawa Hikaru stuck his head out curiously. "I saw a comment where the mouse pointer was. ID Todai Fujimura, the female lead in the MV is Chizuru Ninomiya, a second-year teacher in the economics department at the University of Tokyo." This comment has a lot of replies and is currently the highest. Teacher from Tokyo University? Real or fake? Isn't she an artist? I didn't expect that. She is still a talented woman. No wonder she has such a good temperament and is actually a teacher. I just said, why haven't I heard of such a beautiful beauty before? Are you kidding? She looks so young, how could she be a teacher at Tokyo University? I can testify that she is really a teacher at the University of Tokyo, and she was my previous teacher. I can also testify that I have taken classes from Ms. Ninomiya, and her voice is super nice. Are you all from Dongda University? Originally, the identity of the female lead aroused curiosity, but now someone revealed that she was actually a teacher at Dongda University, which immediately aroused heated discussion. You know, the University of Tokyo is a very mysterious institution of higher learning for most people in Nihon. Everyone who lives in Tokyo knows the name of Tokyo University. However, at least half of the people in the country have never been to Tokyo University. It is very mysterious and solemn. After everyone knew you were a teacher, there was a lot of discussion. Kurosawa Hikaru saw at first glance that there were no negative comments that hurt his heart or hurt his eyes, and he immediately felt relieved. Miss Runa said before that if Chizuru shoots a MV and uploads it to the internet, it will probably cause big news in society, so he is quite worried. It's normal for the discussion to be high, the problem lies next. Ninomiya Chizuru was not very surprised by this. Let alone a teacher from Tokyo University, even a teacher from any school would definitely attract attention if something he did was made public. This attention is not only limited to the student group, but also to the parent group, covering a wide range of age groups. I have already contacted the public relations team in advance to operate this aspect. Public opinion will be controlled. Although Igarashi Runa had said it several times, she still reminded her. When will the official tweet be released? At this moment, Kurosawa Hikaru saw the subsequent discussion and couldn't help but said. Teacher Ninomiya recently resigned and disappeared to nowhere. I didn't expect to see her again in Master 0 Hour's new MV. Is she planning to debut as an artist? No way. Why don't you give up such a good job as a teacher at Dongda University and become an artist? Although these two comments were not obviously negative comments, he could feel that the momentum was not right. Looking at the whole of Japan, being a teacher at the University of Tokyo is the top, most outstanding, most glorious, and most prestigious job. Although the status of artists in Japan is not looked down upon, it is not at the same level as teachers. The only artists who want to be recognized and admired by their parents are artists. Wait a little longer. Although the comment area is very lively, these people are scrolling while listening to the song. Most people should be listening to the song repeatedly, waiting for the main battlefield of everyone's discussion to move to Twitter. Igarashi Runa naturally noticed this, but she knew it was not the time to act yet. After that, she took out her mobile phone and sent a message to the public relations team. Let Chizuru be the female lead in the MV is a double-edged sword. If it works well, it will naturally be a mutual achievement. If it works poorly, it will be troublesome. At the same time, the group chat of the hot girl group became lively again. Blue beautiful girl, it's so nice, I'm going to sleep tonight listening to this song. Aoi, the leading actress is the beautiful older sister I saw at the Tokyo Bunkakaikan, right? She's really beautiful. Hinata, yes, that's her. Sato, at that time, I was thinking about the people who came to the piano concert. The audience was so high quality, I didn't expect that she knew Master Zero Time. Yamamoto, have you seen her? Hitomi, I wonder what her relationship with Master Zero Time is. Yuki, she's really beautiful. Ichi knows Yuki sat on the bed, her back against the wall, chatting with everyone on her phone. She was wearing summer pajamas, her legs were white and tender, her slender toes were tightly together, and her mood was a little subtle. This song Adelina by the Water is really nice. Listening to its melody can remind her of the first date with Brother Guang to the beach. However, she now knows that this piano piece was specially composed by Brother Guang for Ninomiya Chizuru. She was a little jealous, but only a little bit. Because Brother Guang had played a song called Wedding in the Dream for her before, and he also said that he wanted her to be the heroine of the MV. What amazed her more than jealousy was the beauty of Miss Ninomiya. Although she had seen her in person that day at the Budokan and knew the charm of Miss Ninomiya. But in this MV, Chizuru Ninomiya's charm and beauty were fully displayed. She was so beautiful that she could stun everyone. No need to dance, no need for extra movements, whether it was the back view at the beginning, the side glance later, or the last smile back, she was amazed. That kind of beauty is the most beautiful in the world that can attract men, women, young, and old. Can my MV be as good looking as hers? Yuki Ichino's bit her lip, suddenly a little nervous and her heartbeat accelerated. Maybe it's a good thing that Brother Guan created a piano piece for her and tailored an MV for her. But with such a beautiful face in front of her, she felt like she was standing on the stage and facing off head-on. In the other side of the apartment, on the bed in the bedroom, a girl with white hair like a waterfall, skin like the snow in the deep winter, beautiful appearance and delicate features, wearing a pair of headphones, holding a mobile phone, sitting on the bedside. Most of her body was covered by a thin blanket, but her arms were thin, and you could still see how slender she was. Kurosawa-senpai plays the piano so well, it would be great if he didn't have a girlfriend. Sanmuabai lowered her head, her long hair hanging down, her beautiful light blue eyes reflected the picture on the mobile phone screen, her cherry lips slightly parted, and she sighed unwillingly. She knew that the master of Zero Time was Kurosawa-senpai. Because of this, no matter how many times she saw it, she would be fascinated by his performance. His gentleness. His romance. His elegance. His strength. His character. The feeling of knowing what you want but not being able to get it is really unbearable. Recommend a book written by a friend. Naruto with infinite firepower buff. Introduction. The Fourth Ninja World War, bloody and violent. A group of handsome yellow-haired boys passed through the Ninja Alliance, and before the impure world Reincarnation Uchiha Madara made a move, they threw out countless black hole rays non to overturn the entire battlefield. The Ninja Alliance shouted hum. Looking at Uchiha Madara standing in the distance, the yellow-haired boy shook his head handsomely. Why, do you want to dance too? 1,000 meters away, a group of yellow-haired boys performed the unstoppable ghost shadow heavy lightning cut technique and rushed towards the already confused impure world too. At the moment of being knocked away, countless yellow-haired boys held shuriken and performed the wind absolute breath haytake sword technique, followed by the instant prison 1,000 years of killing technique composed of countless shadow clones. What? The impure world body is a dead person, and can't die at all? If you had said it earlier, we would have directly used the King's Destiny possession technique. Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Obito. Yakushi Kabuto, where are all these ninjas from the impure world reincarnation? Why are they out of control? What? You ask me why I only have these skills. The yellow-haired boy looked at the battlefield that had already turned into a basin, and helplessly spread his hands and said, I gave them a chance, but they are useless and can't use their skills at all. 5 Cage. 10 Tails. Kagaya. 6 Path Sage. What a little Gaoba in front of my ninjutsu master Uzumaki Naruto, look at me relying on the super cheat code of League of Legends to dominate the ninja world.